your heart is yearning, wherever you wanna go, I'm gonna walk by your side for everything I'm worth. And if the journey makes you stumble, or the road is far too long, then backwards we will wander. I will never turn around, 'cause I know everything you said, everything you've done, whatever you want, whatever you need, rely on me.
Rely on me. Morning, Ian.
Good morning, Craig. How are you?
I'm cool, dude. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
Traveling across the world to be with us today.
That's right.
It's
Nothing
really
better.
awesome. Good morning, Adam, millionaire producer.
Good morning, Craig.
I haven't seen you in a long time, dude.
Quite some time.
You still a millionaire? Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm still paying you. Yeah.
Got that right.
Yeah, there you go. You don't feel the least bit bad about taking my money, do you?
No.
No. Okay. No hesitation.
He's a good man.
Just, nah, I'm good. Good morning, everybody. My name is Craig Lockard. I am the lead host of the Recruiter Podcast and the youngest man in the car business. Welcome to this Monday morning, October, where are we, 14th? 12th? What the heck is today?
Does it even matter?
No, it does not really, truly matter.
Nope.
Does it?
October 12th.
12th. Thank you so much, Adam. Other than my birthday's coming up on the 28th, so I collect baseball cards. You know, if you have a hard time with ideas on what to get somebody, there you have
Baseball cards.
it. Baseball cards. I have 200,000 of them, so I could always use some more. So
Interesting.
yeah, so it's fun. It's although half of them aren't opened, it aggravates my kids and everybody so much. It's like, what do you? We wrapped it. You're not gonna like look at them?
Right?
No, there's a list on there. I know what's in there.
Yeah, it's a hit list, right?
Yeah, I play with the old ones. So, but it's so good to have you here this morning from all the way from Mason, Ohio.
I.O., baby.
There you go. All right. I was wondering that if you're Buckeyes, Bearcats, you know.
Huge Buckeye fan. I got a Blocko tattooed on my chest. I'm from Central Ohio, so Buckeye at heart. And a Browns fan, too. So.
No way.
Oh, yeah.
God
Oh, yeah.
bless you.
Right.
Oh, geez. You
For
just
all these years.
You just got a lot of new fans, dude. Browns are 4-1. What up?
It's odd. I was texting my dad last night, and it's like it's weird.
It's
to
weird.
sit there and watch them win and watch them produce and have their stuff together. It's like I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone.
I have no idea how to act. None whatsoever.
No.
And I was, what was I thinking about yesterday? Well, next week we play Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And the only good thing I can say about Pittsburgh, sorry to all our Pittsburgh clients, just live with it. When I was a kid, my grandparents lived in Pittsburgh, outside of Pittsburgh,
Okay.
and my grandfather was a big shot with Mellon Bank, which is in Pittsburgh. And they had these, I forget what they were called, inclines. They were like little subway cars. They would literally go up all the hills in Pittsburgh.
Right.
And that was cool being a kid. And the second coolest thing might have been I was at Forbes Field with my grandfather, and I got to see Roberto Clemente play. That was pretty awesome. That's how old I am. And then chronologically, because I'm the youngest man in the car business. So, but one of the coolest things was I watched the '64 championship game at my grandfather's house in Pittsburgh. The last time the Browns won the championship, 1964. So I don't want to hear any crap from Eagles fans or Jets fans or Giants fans. Nobody. Unless you're a Cleveland Browns fan, you literally do not have a clue what it's like to be a fan and go through disappointment.
We've been in prison.
Unbelievable. It's unreal. So let me, this stuff ain't free, so I want to plug one company. Everyone that's listening out there, write this down. MaxSafeConsulting.com. Max, M-A-X, safe, as in something you'd break into if you were a thief. Consulting, as there's too many consultants out there. So, MaxSafeConsulting.com. And one of the products, and just before I got here this morning, not just before I got here, right after I got here this morning, we sprayed the studio here with PermaSafe Step 2, which PermaSafe is one of the products that we handle through MaxSafe Consulting. It's leading antimicrobial. It's awesome, safe, powerful. It's what's called a 5-log kill. Kills 99.999% of viruses, bacteria, and so forth. Dries immediately, non-toxic, EPA, FDA registered. And it's a terrific product. You fog it. You can do your cars. You can do your showrooms. You can do your home, which I've done. We've done, I don't know, beauty shops.
I've never felt cleaner.
Yeah,
I have never felt cleaner.
You're detailed for retail.
I'm detailed for retail.
So, so there's a lot of awesome products on MaxSafe Consulting. Check them out. Go to the site, check it out, tell a friend, and might be able to help you in your dealership somehow there. Speaking of helping dealerships, my guest today, Ian Mathews, is a young man, skinny dude, as you can see. It's really, you got to start working out, dude. What, other than working out, what's your diet like? What do you eat?
I eat a lot. I eat clean.
Yeah.
Try to eat organic.
Yeah.
Eating often, fueling my body. I work out 5 to 6 days a week. Try to just keep up with my wife, to make sure that I don't lag behind her. Chicken, rice, oatmeal. It's not to say that I don't snack at times, but it's all coordinated and planned, So if I know that I'm going to be having a cheat day or a cheat meal, then I might schedule a leg day early the next day or a super heavy day to burn all those calories. So I think people sometimes see me eating a whole package of Sour Patch Kids or Skittles or all the candy on the flight, and they're like, "Man, how do you do it?" I'm like, I just bust my ass, Like if I intake that stuff, I've got to burn it off. So it's really a delicate balance.
Yeah. Your thoughts on that will change as you get older.
Right.
I can tell you.
I have noticed the metabolism starting to slow down.
Yeah. It's about, I don't know. Well, I got really serious about it probably 7 months ago, right around the start of the nonsense, the virus.
So what is serious to you, being disciplined?
Carnivore diet.
Okay.
I eat nothing. Well, there's a caveat to that. 90% of my diet is carnivore, and specifically steak, chicken, and fish once a week. I've been in recovery 20. How long have I been sober? We're supposed to remember stuff like this. 27 years, and I was into sweets before I got sober. After I got sober, it's a whole new addiction, dude. And I eat like Oreo cookies, I don't buy a bag because I'd eat 3 slaves.
Right.
It's like
you're enabling yourself to make bad decisions at that point.
100%. So, but other than that, I'm straight carnivore diet, and I feel, and I take a bunch of supplements.
Right.
So and again, being my age, and I work out and I swim and lift what I can lift at my age. So, but yeah, you're in great shape, man. So nothing really out of the ordinary with the food, just organic. White or brown rice?
I usually eat jasmine rice or basmati rice because it's a little lighter. Good. It's easier to digest. Yeah. I weighed. So I lost my mother leukemia going on 5-6 years ago, and it was probably the point in my life where I realized how strong you need to be mentally and how that can affect your personal appearance and your physical state. And I remember after she passed, I step onto the scale, and I had weighed as what I did in high school. I wrestled for 12 years, and I wrestled 171 as a senior. And I get on the scale, and I weigh 170 pounds, and I'm like, I graduated 8 years ago. I shouldn't be this weight. And that was like my wake-up call. I was at the gym 2 hours later for the first time in like 2.5 years. Yeah. And then I got up to 220 about 18 months later. Yeah. So put on 50 pounds.
You're not at 220 now.
I'm about 205, 210.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was very, like, my joints hurt. And I was at a goal that I wanted to be 220 one day because I'm only 5'10". And I played football and I wrestled. So I was never like the biggest guy, so I always had to put a lot of extra work in to kind of get myself up to par. And I just set a goal. It's like, I'm hitting 220. I don't care how long it takes me, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I was eating like 6,000 calories a day, eating 8 meals, big meals every 2.5 hours, working out sometimes twice a day. And through that process, I realized that I need to protect my mental more than my body, because that's what's going to feed my body.
Yeah.
And it's, don't get it the other way around. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And here we are today.
My oldest son, Joe, who's the director of operations at AutoMax and one of my business partners, was, I mean, you guys could have been body-wise, body doubles. Just a beast. And I'll get this wrong, but his body fat was, I don't know, 6% or something. I mean, it was insane.
Lean.
It looked like his skin was going to tear. And he was huge. And he about
Was he
same,
competing?
Same height, no, just against himself.
Sure.
It was just, he's a very intense guy, and just this is what I want to do.
Right.
And then, unfortunately, a couple of years ago, he discovered he had a aortic aneurysm in his heart.
Really?
Yeah. So
How old is he?
He's 38.
Okay.
So one of the things amongst it took away lifting heavy weights,
Of course.
because of the
The stress and the strain.
Yeah. So he can't do that anymore. He's still in really good shape, but not, but he was.
So is he converted to like more cardiovascular?
Exactly
exercise?
right.
Ugh, God,
Yeah, I know.
I
Yeah.
hate running.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I don't-
bike for like a mile and a
Right.
half at the beginning just to get warmed up. But
Yeah.
God, I ran so much during wrestling. Like,
I don't get running.
no thanks.
I don't
There's
get
people
it.
that love it.
I know.
They love it, And man,
Not me, man.
it's not fun to me. I could run through like the woods or something, but like on a treadmill in a gym or in some room in a hotel room, like I get nothing out of it.
No, I go to the gym. It's like 5 minutes on the bike just to loosen up the old joints,
right.
then stretch, then work out, and then I swim. At the gym I go to, I'm really fortunate. We have 2 pools.
Okay.
One of them is called a therapy pool. The water's 96 degrees. And I swim in there and then stretch and work out. Actually, most people just sit in that thing like a spa, but it's like I actually work out in it, but it's amazing, man. It might be the only reason I'm still living in New Jersey.
Right.
Is that pool.
Okay.
So, although I guess I could move and I could build my own and I could go ahead and heat it, but that
It's
comes
easier.
into
You
like
got
this.
it now. You're fine.
Yeah. So yeah. Now I know this because I looked this up, but it's been a couple weeks. Mason is west of the Queen City, west of Cincinnati.
It's north.
Oh,
so
it's north.
It's right off of 75 in the
Oh,
corridor between Cincinnati
It's where
and
the
Dayton.
what's called at, where the amusement park's at, right? Is it near there?
Yes, Kings Island.
Kings Island.
is in Mason. Yeah, it's right
Oh, that's
there.
in Mason. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you
All
got
right.
the Beachwater Park on the west side of 75, and then Kings Island on the east side.
Okay.
If you're headed north up to Dayton.
All right.
But we're right smack dab in the middle of Dayton and Cincinnati.
Yeah.
My business partner's in Lebanon, which is north close to Dayton, and then
Yeah.
I'm in Fairfield, which is just north of Cincinnati. So
Okay.
it's a good center point. There's a lot of good talent
Yeah.
in both of those areas.
Yeah.
So it's a good pool to pull from rather than being in one.
All right. Hey, I'm going to before I forget, I want to, and I start off most of the guests this way. And in kind of the only thing I'm kind of will script, quote unquote, beforehand is this. And because I'm always interested, and we've asked people from all different areas of life, if you owned your own dealership, Matthew Motors, boom, which would be a no-brainer, I think.
There's a few of them out there with one T too.
Really?
Yeah, no relation, but they're out there.
You should sign them up, man.
Right.
Got to get. They have
One of
to
them's
be
actually, I think, a Ford store in Newark, Ohio, which is where I was born, oddly enough.
in Newark.
Yeah. Newark, Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
Sorry, everybody in Newark. I know there's a couple of you out there.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
east of Columbus.
Yep.
Well, there's not much there.
No. There's a couple good pizza places. I think Ohio State has a satellite campus or a branch
That's
campus
right.
there in Newark. But yeah, it's there's not much going on in Newark, Ohio.
So somehow you get your own dealership, okay? And it's going to be a brand new point or a closed point that's reopened or whatever. And all you got sitting there, dude, is a building, blacktop, and lights, computers, and so forth inside. But you got to start from scratch. So when we get to it here in just a few minutes. What would that look like? The culture. How would you hire people? What would you look for in team members? What kind of marketing message would you want to put out there for your client base in that location, in that area, or beyond? Because location. Not all. It's important, but it's not as important now as it used to be.
Right.
With digital, of course. So I'm interested in knowing very specifically a broad stroke to begin with, and then more specifically, what would Mathew Motors take a look at? But before we do that, for those of you that don't know Ian, who are you? What do you do? How do people get a hold of you? Let's talk a little bit about Autogrowl. I love that name. That's awesome name. Where'd that come from?
Just a quick brainstorm.
Yeah.
We're a company that makes decisions quick. We don't get into this paralysis by analysis thing. And I know there's a lot of companies out there that will look at like the individual words and what it means. And at the end of the day, we just wanted something that grabbed people's attention, represented a strong brand, and more importantly, represented leadership, which is really where we're focused as a company. So I don't know if that's my cue to continue on with that, but
please.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find Autogrowl online at autogrowl.com, on Facebook and on Instagram. Our company was started in 2016 on May 12th. I come from the auto industry. I started out at Ball State University in college as a greeter.
No way.
Yeah, at Muncie Nissan. So this was kind of just a Craigslist job that I applied for. I think it was paying like $8.50 an hour, and I just needed some income while I was in school. So I got a job there as a greeter. After a couple months, they had asked, "Hey, you ever thought about being a car salesman?" I'm like, why the hell not? So I started, I think we were selling like 20, 25 cars a month. I don't believe the dealership is even there anymore. They may have been acquired by another company, but left college, kind of bounced around a little bit, doing different things, and then landed at the Jeff Weiler Automotive family, which is really where I got my teeth cut.
Yeah, they've been a client of ours for a long time.
Great company.
Yes.
Strong values, high performers, obviously. Leading, I think, the industry in a lot of different ways. Kevin Fry was more or less kind of my first mentor in the industry on the marketing side.
How awesome is his log cabin?
Oh,
is that awesome looking?
I think it took him like a year and a half or a year to build.
And
that was by hand. Like, what a man!
Like him and his wife.
What's up,
right?
Kevin?
Like it.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah.
It was interesting watching that journey of them building that thing, because it was a shack.
True-blooded American.
Yeah, it was awesome, dude.
Yeah, incredible.
I can envision like machine gun turrets and stuff around it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Tripwires and grenades and stuff. Be awesome.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Right?
So when I was at Weiler, I started off as a salesperson, and this is in 2009, 2010, and within a couple months, I was selling 5, 6, 7 cars a month just off of Facebook. And at the time, my general manager was like, "Hey, get off your phone, go get a lot up." And I'm like, "Well, I'm getting ups right here." And I pull my phone out, and he's like, No. What do you want, Facebook? He's like, "That's just a fad. That's just a fad." And I'm like, "Well, sir, I respectfully disagree. I think that this can be good for us. I think it'd be good for the dealership. It can be good for me." I'll be the first to say I wasn't the hardest working salesperson. I was 21 years old. I did what I needed to do. If there was days I didn't want to sell cars, I sat on my ass.
Yep.
And it's weird to think that I had that mentality back then. That I just wasn't like always pushing forward and improving. But I started to post these pictures on Facebook, and I went up to my general manager one day, and we were at a 3-point store there, Cadillac, Kia, and Nissan. And I said, "Sir, I see that you guys have a Facebook page, but I think it could be a lot better." And he's like, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Well, I'm personally selling cars off of Facebook, so I think the dealership can do it if they just kind of like adopt the same habits and characteristics and things that I'm putting out in space." So actually, he emailed Kevin Fry. Kevin Fry gave the thumbs up. And thank you for that, because I don't think he even knew who I was at the time. He trusted the GM, thankfully. And I was posting pictures to the Facebook page and kind of managing the dealer group, not at a high level, just content posts. And after like a year and a half of doing this, I'm like, I know everything. I'm going to go start my own company. Like, I can do this for these guys. I can do this for anybody, you know? So I was overly optimistic, not very realistic. My will for things to succeed was why it was going to happen. So as a 21-year-old starting my first company, you know, we were doing small business advertising and social media, and it was a colossal failure.
Yeah.
I mean,
where's that come from? The entrepreneurial side, because most 21-year-olds just like are still playing games on a computer in their basement.
So to kind of take a step back and share kind of where my big awakening was, when I went to college, my parents were divorced. It wasn't a great divorce. You know, I have a great relationship with my father now. We've repented. We have a really good relationship. But it wasn't always like that, you know, product of a broken marriage. I was raised better than most people I know, and I am so grateful for the way my parents raised me. You know, didn't have anything we wanted, but had everything we needed. And my father taught me, hey, if you want something, you go get it. I'm not going to give you anything, because his parents didn't give him anything, and my mom's parents didn't give him anything. So I was like, okay, so it was really the only thing I knew. So I was cutting grass at like age 12, walking through the neighborhood, putting flyers in people's mailboxes, like not as grandiose as Mark Cuban's entrepreneur stories or, you know, Warren Buffett, but still in my own space and path.
It's your story.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, fast forward to coming home from college. Well, I didn't have a relationship with my father at that time, so I moved in with my mother and my little brother, who was 13 or 12 at the time, in a 600 square foot apartment, all three of us. So I dropped out of college. I went for nursing, of all things. I ended up marrying a nurse who's actually in the cardiac cath lab at our hospital.
Yeah, a very attractive woman. You must be a good salesman.
Beyond
she's
attractive.
Like, she's, it's like.
I've got a good story of how we met that I'll share a little bit later that I think is good for people to hear.
Yeah, I kicked coverage on that one, dude. So, you're a good salesman. I'll give you that.
Yeah, right. So, you know, when I moved home, I got a job at a restaurant, and me being me, I was 19 at the time. Somehow I convinced them to allow me to be a server and serve alcohol. I was in the alcohol taste test with the wine. It was like a new restaurant that opened up. So I've always like found a way, right, to get, and I kind of look at rules as just complaints, right? They teach
suggestions.
You, treat a no as a complaint, you know, and not a deferral. So I've kind of had that mindset, and after a couple months, I'm working at this place, and they started to hire new servers and veteran staff, and all of a sudden I realized, like, I'm now working lunches, making like $20, right? Working from like 1 to 3, 12 to 2,
right? Okay.
And I go home one day. It's a Tuesday, and I had made $17. I had made like $20 3 days in a row, right?
Okay.
So I go home and I open the front door. It's
How old are you here?
19, 20,
Okay.
20. I was 20 years old.
Okay.
I hadn't turned 21 yet.
Gotcha.
So I walk in the door and I look on the couch, and it's obviously not a very big apartment, you know, so I can see everything.
600 square foot.
Yeah, 600 square feet. And I look over, and my mom is sitting on the couch just bawling her eyes out. And there's just papers everywhere. And like I immediately knew what was going on. And I sit down, I said, Mom, what's wrong? And she's like, you know, we've got the Duke bill here, and we've got the cable bill here, and we've got the water bill here, and we've got the phone bills here. And I mean, we were on welfare at that time. So I mean, it was like halfway through the month. She's like, I've got no money for food. We've got nothing in the fridge. And she's just like crying, felt defeated, crushed.
Right.
She couldn't provide. And I said, Mom, everything's going to be fine. We'll figure this out. Don't worry about it. Thankfully, my brother was like upstairs at her friend's house, so he wasn't like
younger brother, right?
Yeah, I'm 5 years older than him, so he's 26 now.
Okay.
And so I walk outside, and this was my first. There's been 2 or 3 points in my life where I felt as if like God or someone else spoke to me. Like there was a bigger thing going on than what I could comprehend at that point. And it was a feeling. It wasn't a thought. It wasn't an action. It was a feeling. Something was almost incepted inside of me, right? It came from somewhere else. So I walk outside on the patio. I mean, probably half the size of this office here. And I remember the color of the sky. I remember what I was wearing. I remember the temperature. I remember how hard the breeze was blowing. I remember how many clouds were in the sky. And I'm sitting there, and I look up, and I've even got pictures on my phone of that moment, because I knew that moment for the rest of my life would be the first time that I was punched in the mouth and I had to wake up. So I'm sitting there. And
That's unusual, man. And not to interrupt, but
please.
those moments happen in people's lives but that
Most
typically
aren't aware of
right.
that happening.
Or they might look back and go, "Oh, sometime around this time,
Something changed."
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. It continue.
So
I
I took the picture and I was like, this is going to be an influential moment in my life. And I literally said, F this. Right? I said, F this.
Yeah.
I will know.
You're allowed to cuss too, by the way.
Okay, I wasn't
inclined.
sure.
Yeah.
I'll keep it PG-13.
Yeah, no, you can go for it.
And I said, I will no longer, from this moment forward, allow my circumstances, my situation, what I did or didn't have, where I'm at, to affect me and my family's well-being. I made that decision at that point. I would no longer allow that to happen.
Let me stop you right there. Do not lose that message. Adam, remember what I said just before the show started? I asked you to cue something up.
Yep, I have it queued up right here.
I'm going to tell you what, man. If you wouldn't mind, this is like weird. This is not set up, ladies and gentlemen. It literally is not. Adam, read what I asked you to read, please, if you wouldn't mind.
So I have the excerpt here. It's not. I don't believe it's the whole thing.
Probably not.
But
Does it start with
this
critics or
yeah,
something?
this is the passage.
Okay.
It says, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat."
Where is that from?
Right. It's Teddy Roosevelt. It's a speech called "The Man in the Arena." My first general manager turned me on to that in the early 70s. It became more popular here lately. It's LeBron's favorite passage.
Okay.
The Man in the Arena. It's awesome. Yeah.
And that was just an excerpt?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I mean,
that's right what you're talking about.
Right.
and kind of the way from that moment on till this very second, the kind of way you've tried to, as best you can at this point in your life, because you're such a young guy, your future's freaking bright. You're going to have to wear sunglasses. That's an old song. But at any rate, that passage, I think, kind of explains you a little bit.
Absolutely,
it
does.
What you're all about.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
And to fact check this, he was right. That was not planned.
Right. No.
That excerpt.
Right. Yeah.
That's fate.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I made that decision that I would now become the person in charge of my well-being and the people around me. I made the decision that I was willing to sacrifice short-term happiness for long-term fulfillment. I made the decision that I was willing to carry the weight that others would have on my shoulders in an effort to help improve a situation. But I would be very selective as to who I would make that sacrifice for. It wouldn't just be for the masses. It would be people that are willing, right? People that want it for themselves. Because many years later, probably as recently as the last 2 years when I really started to mentor and coach younger people between the age of 20 and 30, I realized that I wanted it more for a lot more people than they wanted it for themselves. They wanted the handheld and here you go. And it just doesn't work that way. You've got to want it for yourself. So it's been this journey of identifying those individuals and those individuals identifying themselves to me and reaching out. And it's been very, very rewarding, and I made that decision. I put on a shirt and tie, and 2 hours later, I was at Jeff Weiler interviewing for a job. So I made that decision. I'm done. I am now in control. And 2 hours later, I had a job at Weiler, and that was kind of like the beginning of the end of a one life and the beginning to the start of another life, right?
And then you served 4 or 5 years in retail, right? Is something like that?
Yeah, retail. I mean, I've done door-to-door energy sales.
Yeah.
I've done telemarketing. So I was a model for Abercrombie in high school. So I literally have bagged groceries. I've cut grass. I've worked for a moving company. I've done a lot of different things, right?
Yeah.
So I was never afraid to go and discover a new challenge or to make a move and take action.
Right.
But it didn't really become like a part of who I was until I realized that I needed to direct that energy somewhere and not just like go out and try a bunch of different things.
And then you and your partner, I'm sorry, what's your partner's name?
Nick Schmidt.
Nick Schmidt.
Yep. He loves when I say Nicholas. He thinks it's very professional.
Let's go with Nicholas then.
No, he really doesn't.
No?
It's Nick.
Well, then let's piss him off and
Right.
say Nicholas.
Schmitty. We'll call him Schmitty.
Schmitty. So, did you guys, because I can't quite figure it out just by reading it, so did you guys acquire already a company in operation, or did you guys just take out a piece of paper and say, okay, Autogrowl, this is what we're going to do?
So to give a little backstory on how Autogrowl got started, I worked at Weiler. I did that whole deal, thought I could start my own company, failed miserably, went back to Weiler, worked there for a while, did some consulting with a company out of Chicago. They would do an analysis of small businesses, CNC shops, production shops. We would talk about succession planning, exit strategies, tax reliefs, productivity.
Yeah.
And through that, I really learned how to speak to business owners. And I got a job at a Ford store in Ohio, Lebanon Ford.
Okay.
And over a 22-month period there, we had ridiculous growth. I mean, I think we tripled web traffic. Sales of the store dramatically increased. And it was the first time that I realized that there are different ways to operate dealerships, right? Because I'd come from Weiler, right? Very corporate,
Right.
very demanding.
Yep. Very successful.
Very successful. And not to say that that's wrong, right? There's a million different ways to operate a business.
You bet.
But from a corporate world to a single point store, it couldn't be more different. Couldn't be more different.
It's a fact.
And I had never realized that before.
Right.
I realized that, oh my gosh, there's a dealership here that is involved in the community. They sponsor little events here and there, and not sponsoring like the Reds or the Bearcats, like the soccer team's T-shirts, right, locally.
Right.
The business was centered around,
Which is huge.
Exactly, was centered around retention and loyalty. And it was just an eye-opening experience for me. As the marketing director, I was able to train salespeople on the internet process. I was able to help make decisions. And through this 22 months, I realized, I'm like, damn, I'm wasting so much time talking to 12 different vendors a month about the same damn thing. And 30 of the 45 minutes I'd have was just telling them what the other guys are doing. So everything was a consistent message, right? You'd have the paid search vendor doing ads here, but then the SEO team was focusing on content here rather than building up SEO to reduce the paid search costs, right? Owning that online real estate, which is really what we push.
Right.
Being socially engaged, building a personal brand, creating awareness around what you do as a person. And my partner and I, Nick, who was kind of like our graphic design independent contractor of sorts. We weren't partners at this point. He did all of our video, graphics, emails, website content, all of that, right?
So he was the tech guy.
Yeah, he was the behind the scenes guy, and I came in. I don't have any of those skill sets.
Right.
So I reached out to Nick. We had done some small projects before in the past with my miserable failure of a company. He was making like flyers for me and stuff. And I said, hey, man, I just got hired at this job, and like I need somebody that can crank out content. And he is literally like the best at it, like the most efficient, the most spot on. I mean, an eye for design. I mean, just incredible. Like when I saw him making flyers in the bar industry and the real estate or the hospitality business when I was in college, I would see his content and be like, I'm going to work with that guy one day. Like that guy's a monster.
That's interesting.
So that was the first time that I was like, hey, that guy, I need to go build a relationship with him. I need to join up with this guy because he has what I don't. So now you fast forward, I mean, how we've known each other 8 years, we couldn't be more polar opposites. I am the outspoken, energetic, kind of defiant, don't really care what anybody thinks, and he is reserved, thoughtful, specific, quiet. And it couldn't be more of a perfect business marriage, right? polar opposite. So
yeah, that's important.
It is.
For those of you that are out there that are looking into partnerships, partnerships are hard,
difficult,
and it would be my suggestion to embrace the difficult nature of that. And confrontation's probably not the right way to go, but if you have them, have at it, because one thing that'll break up a potentially great partnership is not addressing things head on.
Yes.
Yes. And having, as you alluded to your point, polar opposites, real important, I've found anyway. And it could be, I've been in business, in several businesses for a long time. And that is really important.
Yep.
Yeah.
You almost don't know it until you're there and you realize, like,
well, that's right. That's true. Yeah, that's true. It just by human nature, you would think, well, I get somebody just like me.
Because it's comfortable.
Right, and we can grow that. No, it's...
There's no growth in comfortability.
Yeah, you got to get that other person that fills the holes that you have, which is very important. Mm-hmm. So you guys started this.
Mm-hmm. And we broke away. We actually offered the owner of the dealership stake in the company. We said, hey, if we can do this for here, we can go find other dealerships that operate the way you do. So we knew that we had a very secular way of doing things. And she respectfully declined. Yep. First woman owner that I ever worked for.
Awesome.
So that was also an incredible experience. That was also a first for me.
Yeah.
A killer. And Nick and I were like, hell, let's do it, man. Let's bounce. So we jumped out. I was like 8 months from getting married. We're in the middle of planning a wedding. I show up at home. My wife's like, what are you doing?
You did what?
Yeah. She's like crying on the couch. It's like Tuesday afternoon at 11:30. It was kind of funny because that day was a Tuesday and the day that I woke up was a Tuesday. Tuesday must be an important day. So I was like, you just need to trust me. Just trust me. She's like, okay. And again, I fell in love with my wife again. There's multiple times where I've fallen in love with her over and over and over and over and over again, where I'm like, I know I made the right decision. And that was definitely one of them. Because I think people in our position, especially when you own a company or you're a high performer or you're on a board somewhere, you're a manager or a leader, I don't think people put enough credit behind what their spouse can do for them.
Yes.
For better or worse,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
And to be able to have the love and support that I do from my wife, Lindsay, is an incredible thing. I'm so grateful for it. I've even counseled other people on relationship issues because, we just have a great relationship. It's hyper communication. We know that we're different, right? We're almost polar opposites. Again, another one of those situations. So we started the company Autogrowl. There was a third partner who was in the resale business. So he sold finance contracts, warranties, gap coverage, and he had a lot of relationships in the industry, right? He had been in the business for 20, 30 years, general manager here and there. And we said, hey, here's what we got going on. Let's start having conversations. So we ended up signing a handful of clients, kind of rode us through that first year. I think we did like less than $100,000 in our first year. And then we got up over $2 million in our second year, in our second full year. So
good on you.
Massive growth.
That's awesome.
And we're not a volume company, right? We're full service. So when a client signs us, they either sign us for digital or full service. Digital would be a one-touch turnkey solution for all digital. SEO, SEM, Facebook, reputation, website. You don't have to talk to your dealer.com vendor. You don't have to talk to your SEO vendor. You don't have to talk to the paid search vendor. You don't have to talk to the Facebook person. You don't have to talk to the reputation vendor. We do all of those at one point, and we assign a team of 3 people to that account. So for $5,000 or $6,000 a month, I'm providing something in the market that you can't go and get on the market. I'm giving you 3 people for $5,000 or $6,000, depending on your store market size and volume, and we produce with that full digital tilt, so that way your message is consistent across every channel. Now, when you level up to full service, that's kind of things get a little different for Autogrowl. That's where we become more of the consultant to the dealership. Dealerships pay us for our marketing and advertising. Everything we do on a consulting level is added value. We're helping make hiring decisions. We manage the budget. We hire and fire vendors for them. My clients don't take pitches anymore. They send the company to our brand manager and they sit in the pitch. And then we tell the client, hey, I think you should sit in this pitch, or we're out on this, or it's too much, or it's too little. We do weekly reporting and strategies. We plan out quarterly, semi-annually, and annually. So I know dealers get on this 30-day mindset. It's our job to help them think infinitely, right? It is about the 30-day, but it's also about the quarter and about the year. So I don't go out and say Autogrowl is a consulting company, because just like you said, there's a ton of consulting companies out there. And when you hear consultant, people just see a big dollar sign over your head, right? They think, oh God, he's going to be expensive, right?
Yeah.
And we're not cheap, like our services for full service start out at $10,000 a month, but you get a team of 5 people. And not only do we do all of the digital aforementioned, but we manage the budget, we submit the co-op, we shoot the productions, we buy the media, we do not charge media fees of what most people will charge 15%. So every single client we've ever worked with has reduced their budget and increased all of their metrics and performance.
Your plan sounds very similar to a friend of ours, or I don't know how friendly you are, but you mentioned that he was I think you used the word mentor.
Troy Spring.
Be our buddy Troy.
Absolutely.
Of Dealer World and his newest venture, Agency 345, which AutoMax Recruiting is a
non-automotive
client
side, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, here. Adam, if you could get this. This is one of our cool things from Troy.
Grab a pen, 800-878-5090, the number you need to hire for any department in your business. AutoMax Recruiting, #hire.
You got some good voice talent on that thing.
Yeah, that's right. That guy should get more money. My assistant's 6-year-old son. I don't know, man. I never believed in photographic memories until I met this little kid. He has that down. So what we're going to do is put him in our film studio with the green screen. And I've done a lot of things. We have a white chair and a black background, and it's going to be something along the line. Troy, at our call, what was our call with them? Friday, said, yeah, wonder what Craig Lockard was like when he was 6 years old. And we're going to have, his name's Brendan. At 6 years old, we're going to have him suited up and all
Very
black.
nice.
Typically, I wear all black and have him, because, I mean, he has it nailed. But, yeah, just a little
awesome.
something from Agency 345. But, so, yeah. So you're and Troy has always said this about his company and called himself a performance company.
Right.
And that's
Marketing
really
and
what you are.
Yeah, we drive performance.
Right. You drive performance through marketing and consulting
Consultancy,
and so on and so forth. And that's great. And serious growth in a very short period of time.
And it kind of was halted, though, because, we found ourselves with our third partner, who was the majority owner of the company, kind of at different points in our lives. We kind of wanted to go different directions, had different visions for the future.
Right.
So in December of 2018, we began negotiating the deal for the buyout.
Right.
And we got the deal done on February 1st of this year.
Yeah, great timing.
Great
dude.
timing. Great timing.
Awesome timing.
Couldn't have been better timing. So, it's obviously not an overnight thing. We took over the company on February 1st. It's kind of funny because we woke up the next morning and Nick is texting me at like 6:30 in the morning, and I'm thinking like, good morning, happy first day as part owners of Autogrowl. Just purchased the majority shares of the company. Here we go, let's celebrate.
Right.
And we had a team event that Friday night. We took the team out to like a Dave & Buster's, had dinner, had a full day of meetings. We planned out the year, and it was the first time because all of our people are remote. We've got people in Michigan, Pittsburgh, South and North Carolina, Texas, all over the place, right?
That's right.
We've since now had people move to Ohio and join our central office. But we wake up and he's like, what happened? I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, $12,000 on Facebook? And I'm like, what? Because I obviously spend money, but to spend $12,000 from like midnight to 5 a.m. wasn't in our mix, right? It was a red flag. It's like reading analytics. You see something and it's like, whoa, that bounce rate's high. Let's dig into that. So we get there.
12,000 is
so
huge.
$12,500 to be exact. It was a $10,000 and a $2,400. One of our pages got hacked by a Russian and sold 235 back braces with our card.
Get the hell out of here.
Using a client's Facebook page, but through our ads manager, sold like $12,000 worth of back braces.
Whoa.
Well, I mean, granted, obviously back braces were like $500, $600 a piece, so they spent $12,000 of ad spend. So that was day one. Not even day one, like hour 6 of owning the company, hacked by Russians.
Whoa.
Right. So par for the course, $12,000. So it took,
would that suck?
Yeah. So it took like 2.5 weeks of speaking with Facebook directly, going through. They were like, yo, this is wild. Like, we've never seen this. And great. Yeah, you've never seen this before, right? Yeah, never.
Right.
So we ended up working with our bank, and we got all the funds back. I mean, it took like 2.5 weeks, right at the beginning of the month, too, when we do payroll. So that's always a good thing, right? But we got through it, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
Right? So it was like punch in the mouth after punch. After almost a year and a half of legal counsel and meetings and going back and forth for the deal.
For the buyout.
And it's like, oh, we finally did it.
Right.
Psych.
Right.
So I look back and I think if I wasn't, Nick and I, if we weren't in the mindset that we were in, I mean, it would have been easy to crumble, right? And I'm very grateful for our clients. We didn't lose any clients during COVID.
Yeah.
Everybody battened down the hatches. We reduced a lot of advertising and spend. But at that point, we realized that there's a need in the industry. So we navigated from being a marketing company to being a training company like overnight.
Yeah.
Overnight. So we immediately started putting more attention on how do we handle the leads? How do we get the most dollars? How do we get people in the store? What are people saying? So what makes Autogrowl different is that we have access to all of our client CRMs. Not only do we help you drive leads, but we'll also help you sell the leads. And that's our biggest differentiator, is that most agencies, they're either a training company or they have a training division. Our brand managers, the same person that's developing the strategy for acquisition of leads and opportunities, is the same person holding weekly meetings with the internet team, with the BDC team, the same person that's going in and training the salespeople on, hey, here's how you read a lead. This is coming from this source. This person's in this funnel. This is coming from this source. This person's in this funnel. And we know that most dealers, it's like, oh, we manage leads for 7 days, 10 days. After that, long-term follow-up. Well, I doubt that a lot of dealers will go in and look at their average day to sale.
No, probably not.
Or even further, break it down to average day to sale per funnel or per category. So that's what we do is we take all of the guesswork out of it, right?
Yeah.
We make a lot of gut decisions because I believe that's important, and we'll get to the psychology behind that later. But with all things considered, the understanding of the analytics and the material helps us make those better decisions.
Yeah, well, it's always been a thing with me. It always kills me. Whoever initiates it doesn't probably matter, but excuse me, you got a dealer at, I don't know, whatever, 20% close. We'll just make the math easy, and they're getting 500 ups a month. And so the way I look at it, and then he says, well, I want to double my sales, so I want to double my spend on advertising. It's like, okay, so we'll go from pissing off 400 people a month to 800 is what you want to do, right?
Right.
How about if we take what we're doing, and before we spend more money, let's do a little better job with what we already have.
Exactly.
I think it's probably a smart
the math works out better increasing your closing rate by 1% to 2% than it does adding on another 100 leads at that same closing percent.
No question about it.
It's math, not magic.
Yeah.
Right? Car guys know that. That's a word track, right?
Yeah.
Oh well, the payment you said I wanted to be at $250 and it's $400. Well, Mr. Customer, it's math, not magic.
Right. Yeah.
That's how the math adds up, right? So and I think dealers, especially the veterans dealers that are really stuck in their ways, and that's the only thing that they know, they've been conditioned and programmed. More leads, more money, more sales. But it doesn't have to be like that anymore, especially with how piss poor most dealers manage leads. And it blows my mind because, we're on social media all day. We're commenting, we're texting, we're emailing. There's very little vocal interaction or in-person interaction. Why the hell do we have such a problem managing internet leads?
Yeah.
you know, and I know that there's higher quality and lower quality, but at the end of the day, it's whether you look at it as a half glass full or half glass empty will dictate your actions on how you manage that lead.
No question about it. Zero question about it. And how you manage that lead going forward. I mean, that person is going to, the ridiculous, overwhelming majority of the time, going to buy something from someone at some future point in time. And if you're just, you know, following them up for 30 days, dude, you ain't getting that deal. Unless you're by far the cheapest and they're within 3 miles of where they live.
There's a lot of little factors there that can affect that. But they're programmed on the 30-day mindset. If it's not here right now, then it's not here at all. So we're trying to change that. And the mission of Autogrowl is to create a better experience for consumers. Believe it or not.
Well, that only makes sense because that'll go back to the store. So it's a good way to look at it. It's a good way to look at it. It begin with the end in mind.
Exactly.
So.
And we call it starting with why. So for those of you out there that follow Simon Sinek, author of Start With Why, Leaders Eat Last, Find Your Why, the infinite mindset.
Thing he does
exactly. So the what, the how, the why. You know, for example, he uses Apple often because people can relate and they understand. So the best companies in the world start with why, and they do it differently than every other company, but they're all exactly the same in that nature. So, for example, when Apple advertises, if they were like everybody else, they would say, we sell great computers, the what? We do it by building them with immaculate design and easy user interface. Hey, want to buy one? Apple advertises starting with the why. They'll say, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in doing things differently. We do that by building computers that are beautifully designed and easy to use. Oh, hey, want to buy one? So what they do is they relate to the people that believe what they believe, not to the people that want to buy a computer. So starting with the why and that purpose, the cause, the just belief. And that has really become kind of like the inherent culture of Autogrowl, and why we are going to make large impacts in this industry, because most agencies don't do it that way. Most dealers don't operate that way. They operate at the fundamental why, and they do it backwards. Which is why IBM, Microsoft, it's why nobody can own the space that Apple is in, is because they're different. You know, it's the Chick-fil-A's of the world, right? You know, they didn't get into the business to sell chicken sandwiches. They got into the business to serve people at a very high level. They were the fastest private company to $1 billion in U.S. history at the time, right?
Didn't know that.
Yeah, and they started in Atlanta, Georgia. S. Truett Cathy, the founder, Eat More Chicken, Serve More People is a great book for anybody out there that's looking to learn about the Chick-fil-A story, regardless of how you feel about some of their decisions as an organization.
What's the name of that book, dude?
Eat More Chicken, Serve More People by S. Truett Cathy. He's the founder of Chick-fil-A.
Okay, go ahead.
And, you know, when we advertise, or when we have dealers advertise, you know, we try to encourage them to advertise that way. So, hey, I've got 300 cars on the lot. And sorry for you dealers out there that are standing in front of your lot with a suit coat, screaming at the camera, telling everybody your prices. I know that's the way you've done things for a very long time, but I can promise you that is white noise. It is what it is. So we encourage our dealers to start from a position of purpose. We share the identifiable natures of a business. We share why that business is there. So our advertising is much different, and it resonates with people differently. So, you know, there's a reason why Martin Luther King got up and said, I have a dream, not I have a plan, right? If he would have said, I have a plan, then would he have really gotten the following that he did when he says, I have a dream, right? So even Martin Luther King started from why, not the what. If he said, I have a plan, and shared that, that would be the what. So you can see these points in history where someone did something different. They were maybe ridiculed or bashed in the beginning, or thought less than, or that's not the right way to do it. That's not the way everyone else does it. Great. Fantastic. Because we're not interested in doing it the way everybody else does it. I know that Autogrowl is going after a very tiny piece of the market. I know that, right? How many dealerships are there, franchise points in America? Like 17,000 or something. I know that most dealerships are listening right now thinking like, bro, you're not going to make it. You can't do it that way. Right. But
don't need many.
No. And because our clients that we have grow over time, they've reinvested with us. So we've found that is the way our business is going to grow. We're going to find a dealership, or we're going to find a partner, and we're going to grow together. We reinvest in one another. We help one another. And now we're at the point 4 years down the road where we still work with our very first client, by the way, too. Very first client. We still work and always will. I personally still manage those strategy calls. Made a commitment, Mark Chasey, if you're on here, what's going on, man? Made a commitment that forever I would be the person in charge of that account. And I think it's going to be a really cool story down the road when we're this huge agency and, we've got 50 or 100 people and I am still managing the first client call. So
it's very important.
There's purpose behind that, right?
It's very important.
And it's not just to show people like, oh, we can stay involved, but it's a commitment, right? And it stands for our values. And there's been times where we've gotten busy and I've kind of strayed a little bit and Mark put me in check. Like he's asked me to come in a room and said, hey, you're my guy.
It's pretty cool. We've been blessed to be in business 23. Yeah, coming up on it'll be 23 awesome. Years. Thanks. In November, and I mean, we have 23-year clients. It's like in our, and that's incredible. Kind of unheard of.
It is
in the
average
auto
6
industry.
to 8 month turn on most vendors and partners.
It's like we'll try it, and okay, and they're done. So that's one of the things that and our internal employee, our team member retention is just really important to me. So,
which speaks to your loyalty. Your team is loyal.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, and they're all overpaid.
That always helps too.
For you guys listening, it's teeing you up for no raises. No. So, no, I'm only kidding. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. Specifically, and most of them are pretty easy. So, Autogrowl, GROWL.com, right?
Auto and then growl like a lion.
Right. And then you personally, Instagram, Facebook,
LinkedIn, YouTube,
LinkedIn.
Ian C Mathews everywhere. Mathews with one T, one of a kind.
Okay, that's how people get it. That's the best way for people to get a hold of you.
Either Autogrowl or Ian C Mathews on either of those platforms. We're all over the place. So.
All right, good. All right, let's get to my question.
Absolutely.
All right, Matthew Motors. Let's make this thing rock. And we don't want to be number 2, right? We want to be the best. If you're going to put that kind of time, energy, money, effort, blood, sweat, and tears into something, we want it to be the best. So, where do we start with this thing? And what's this thing going to look like? Start wherever you want, and we'll see where this thing goes.
So, I'm not going to get into the franchises and all that kind of stuff.
Could be anything.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because our purpose isn't to sell Fords or to sell Mazdas or to sell Hondas. Our purpose is to provide an experience and to make it less stressful for consumers, to make it easy, to make them want to buy with us. So.
All right, let me stop you right there, and I won't do a lot of this, so I'll try not to. Too often, I've seen, and I've done it myself, so I know this firsthand. The goal, the idea, the mission was to we got to make money and work backward from that. How we're going to make
result.
Money. It is absolutely a result. Could be a scorecard, whatever. It's serving people, as you've alluded to a couple times in a couple different ways thus far, and I hope people are actually hearing this and take notes and share this stuff too, by the way, if you would. Share it, please. If your main focus, if your heart's desire is truly no bullshit, no catchphrase, bullshit mission statement, if you're really out to serve people, I don't care what the business is, if that's really your thing, and then you actually go and do it, because saying it and then closing somebody because they believe you and they bought into the hype, if you don't do it, that travels like a wildfire in California, man. It's like
and I love it.
Yeah,
I do.
So
it weeds out all the shitheads.
Right. So I really love what you said there. And those of you that are listening, watching, and see this on the replay and so forth, or the other platforms, man, you got to be out to serve people. Start there. What is that experience going to be like for the ultimate user, the buyer of the machine, whatever it is you're selling, but in this case, automobiles. So good. I'm going to shut up. Go.
I think that's a great point. Serving people is because it's not done enough anymore. Most interactions are very transactional now. We're very disconnected as a society, regardless of how engaged we are socially. It's a different kind of connection, right? Not that it's good or bad. I'm sure it is good or bad in some different ways and different situations. But at the end of the day, you can impact someone's life by serving them.
Right. One of the and most of the stuff, and you'll find out as you get old. You'll find out as you get older, son.
Right.
There's so many cliches. And typically, most of everything I say business-wise is stolen from somebody else. I think this one's original, however, and we've used it for a long time, that if we do what we do, if Autogrowl does what they do, if AutoMax Recruiting and MaxSafe Consulting, if we do what we do better than anyone else does it, someone will find a way to pay us to do it. Okay? So let's chase excellence, results, taking care of the customer. If we do what we do better than anyone else does it, someone will find a way to pay us to do it. I think if we keep that as a mindset, would you agree with that?
I couldn't be more in agreement with you.
Yeah, so...
it's the infinite mindset. It's not like, what can I get right now? It's trusting your purpose and knowing.
Exactly. And if you're a dealer manager, if you're a salesperson listening to this right now, and I think it's really important for salespeople when they listen to the Recruiter podcast and some of the guests, especially Ian here, of what's possible. If you're a young salesperson, young meaning newer, and you're listening to this program right now or watching, it's like, oh, I want to be like those guys. I want to be like this guy, man. This cat's 20 or 31.
I just turned 31 on October 2nd. Yeah.
I want to be like that cat and do this and do that and money and this and that. Okay, that's fine. You can do that. It's hard work. It's like being an entrepreneur, starting a business is literally minimum 10 times harder than you think it's going to be when you start. Everything is like, oh crap, I forgot about that, and we should. Really should have some sort of insurance. There's this.
I did run over a tripod on a production once, so insurance is part.
That's why you should have insurance. However, there's nothing wrong with being a lifetime professional automobile salesman. There's a couple out there right now, Frank Cronetti, who's 30 minutes from here. I wouldn't even guess what he made, but the guy sells 100 cars a month. Or Ali Rita, who broke.
Do they have like assistants delivering cars and stuff for them?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, these guys, just got to be a $500,000 a year automobile salesman.
Yeah, definitely.
Why do anything else? They're working 5 days a week. Is like
managing their own schedule. Probably not very much stress.
Right. So if you're a salesperson listening to this, hey. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you have that spirit, you're ready to work more hours and really sacrifice, have at it. If you want to be a salesperson, be the best salesperson you have, and really listen to what's being said on this podcast today. Really, truly hear it. So let's get back to Matthew.
Well, I'm gonna give some actionable insights too. I think for some salespeople and managers out there. So we'll kind of plug those in as we go. But our dealership would be centered around culture. The most important thing in our dealership would be to hire great leaders. At the end of the day, hire great leaders. For those of
Troy Spring, how you doing, dude?
For those of you, what's going on, Troy? For those of you that don't believe in strong leadership, or you think it's kind of just just thing that's in the air, right? Find somebody that can sell a lot of cars or make a lot of money. That's not a good leader. Not that there aren't good leaders that make money,
Correct.
but there's inherently different things about being a good leader. So leadership is actually the art of influencing human behavior to accomplish a mission in the way that is desired by the leadership.
All right, knuckleheads, get out a piece of paper,
Yeah, write this
and
one
a
down.
pen or something to write with, and slower. Write this down. Go ahead, please.
Leadership,
Again.
ladies and gentlemen, leadership is the art of influencing human behavior to accomplish a mission in the manner desired by leadership.
Boom. Okay. Cool.
Every general ever, every leader, MLK, everybody. A great leader is the art of influencing human behavior to accomplish a mission desired by the leader. I was at dinner with a client recently, and we're at dinner with his wife and our team, and he goes, "So what makes a good leader?" And I said, "Well, a good leader empowers people. They encourage people to take action, lead by example." And he goes, "Nope." And I'm like, "Okay. Enlighten me." And he goes, "Great leaders create great leaders." I'm like, damn, you're right. What a simpler way to condense all that down. You know, so our business would have great leaders. We would hire great leaders in the influential roles.
Right.
And my job and our board or our execs, our job would be to increase how much of a leader that they are. Of course, we would do the basic sales training and F&I training and all the dealer stuff. But I mean, we would be sending our leaders to growth hacks. We would be doing weekly book clubs. I mean, we would not run like a dealership. We would not operate. I would look at the plan and I would say, oh, if that's how every other dealer does it, let's think of a different way to do it.
Right.
And I would be fine with that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it would identify differently.
Right. When Vegas goes when all the money's going one way, you should probably go the other way.
Exactly.
So, okay. So this is something that I think is real prevalent in the automotive space, and it's not to, and please, is sometimes when guys like us, vendors, say stuff like this, it sounds like we're beating up on dealers, and specifically in my case, that's not the point, because I have sat where you are sitting in literally every store in a car dealership. So that's not what we're trying to get accomplished here. However, in owning a recruiting company, too often we find that sometimes, and I mean, some of the trainers that are on here that are watching, Anthony just jumped on to be a perfect example, or Uncle Mike, Mike DeFilippis. Invariably, in one of our the ways that we recruit, in this particular case, salespeople for car dealerships, is we'll send someone on site. They're called recruiter trainers, and they interview, they call, they vet through the people, and then give them some initial sales training.
You guys host like classes? You like bring in groups?
Yeah. That used to be all our business. Over the last few years, that probably is 30% of our business now. Now it's all remote recruiting and so forth in all positions.
Right.
Invariably, every single week, at the end of the week, the dealer would pass on the person that was by far the best in class. By far. Excuse me. And the only, and we could ask till we're willing to face, but typically it comes down to they couldn't control that person. Right? Too high maintenance, too dominant, too this, that, or another thing. So they would step over, pass on literally the best talent, and then invariably our trainers would just walk that person across the street, get them hired in 30 seconds. I know enough about the dealership world to know that we all want to, as managers, kind of protect our turf, and that threat of hiring a talented person. Let's say, I'm the GSM at a store. I see this 30-year-old kid walking in the store, all guns blazing, and it's like, I mean,
we call it automotive paranoia.
Right. I mean, you'd be a quote-unquote no-brainer hire, yes or no?
Of
right?
course I would.
No-brainer hire, right? But there'd be enough guys, old guys like me, that would say, oh, no, man, that guy's, I'm going to end up having to retire. This guy's going to come after my job in a minute.
And that's kept us from getting deals with dealerships because the marketing director, the internet director, the marketing feel very threatened when in actuality, we want to work with them. Like, we'll make their job easier. We'll make them perform better. We'll give them more time, make them more money. But everybody's so scared, like, oh, well, they're going to come in and I'm out. You know, they're going to do everything. But, like, I'm not interested in removing anyone from a store unless they're an underperformer. Then if you're an underperformer, now you can be worried.
Whole different conversation.
Right, exactly. So, you know,
it's interesting, isn't it?
It's a battle and it's a struggle. And it's kind of one of those things like, but if you only just knew. But it's very hard to sell what Autogrowl does is because how do you sell? You're a consultant, right? Like, you've got to be able to get in and understand, and you know, it's a different landscape. So having these leaders that are able to lead their team, I mean, I'm talking daily one-on-ones, and the one-on-one wouldn't be, Craig, so your goal this month is 12 cars, and you need to do 30 grand in gross. You know, how can we help you get that goal? How can we reach your 30s? And for those of you doing one-on-ones right now like that, you've at least doing more than most dealers, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, you know, but you guys need to be talking about something differently, and this is what I'm going to recommend. If you're sitting down, and let's say Craig is my salesperson, and these are actual one-on-ones that we have, we ask a series of 3 questions. The first question we ask is, what is your why? What is your purpose? What is your cause? Why do you get out of bed every day? What's your answer?
Yeah. Okay, so we'll role play this out. Well, my specific why for this month would be I got a leak in my roof, man, and it's like destroying the side of my house. I got to get a new roof on my house. So I mean that's my that's why I'm here, man. I got to make some money, get that roof fixed.
You know, and the answer for everybody out there is always material. It's I need to make money.
Typically.
I need to do this. I need to do that. And again, that is the what of the golden circle. It's not the how and it's not the why. It's the what. So we are programmed with the what, right? So it's this process of breaking that programming. So I would say, okay, so you get out of bed every day to fix the hole in your roof, and they're like, oh no, I guess not. Okay, so what are you here to do? Take the car sales out of it. Take the money out of it. What are you here to do on this earth? And 99% of people are just like, damn, that's a deep question, Ian. I've never thought about that. And I encourage every human being on the planet to think about that. That's the reason why most people are unhappy. It's the reason why most people are unfulfilled, because they're in this rat race. They don't know why they're doing something. They're just doing it. And when you're doing something for a material object like money, right, or a scorecard, that'll fill a piece of you, but it doesn't fill the whole thing. And I told you earlier, I made the decision to sacrifice short-term happiness for long-term fulfillment. There's many days where I go to bed unhappy. I'm pissed off. We had a bad day. I had to choose somebody out. A campaign didn't perform like the expectation. We projected too high on a campaign and the client's pissed. Whatever the case is, I can go to bed unhappy. I very rarely, if at all, go to bed unfulfilled, because I knew that regardless of the positive or negative things that happened that day, we forward our cause. We continued the path, the journey. So when you're doing these one-on-ones and you ask somebody, what is your why? What is your purpose? Oftentimes they won't have an answer, and that's okay because it's something they need to digest and think about. So when they come back and say, okay, well, think about this, think about that. I sold from a position of purpose back in 2000 and whatever, before I started reading Simon, before I knew about the Golden Circle. So inherently, somehow my parents programmed me this way, right? So I grew into what I am today. It wasn't like there was this enlightenment. Like, I've always done it. I've always known my purpose, or I've been living my purpose. I didn't know how to communicate it or what it was. So, and we're gonna get kind of nerdy with everybody here. So if anybody is likes brain chemistry, psychology, things like this, you know, when you ask somebody, Craig, why did you make that decision? And you say, I don't know, it was a gut feeling. Most people don't know why we answer that way, right? But it's like you hear it almost every day. Why'd you do that? Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? What made you make that decision? Why'd you marry her? What was it about her? I don't know. It just felt right. It was a gut decision. We literally just talked about it earlier. Let's make a gut decision. Our business makes gut decisions. Now, for everybody out there, yeah, obviously we look at the data, right? It's a happy marriage of data and gut, right? Of what we know, because intuition is very strong. Your brain, you get like, 3 seconds before your brain, after making a decision, starts to get in your way and rationalize why you shouldn't. Your brain is here to protect you. Your brain is here to make you feel comfortable, to keep you away from fear, to keep you away from stress, to keep you away from danger, right? Our brain wants to protect us and live. It's our croc brain. So our croc brain makes those decisions. Why do we say it's a gut feeling? Because that part of our brain doesn't know language, which is why it's so hard for people to communicate their why, their purpose, because that shit comes from in the inner brain. That part of your brain, the croc brain, doesn't know language. It's emotion, it's fight or flight, right? Yeah, so when you deliver information, it's got to work its way into the brain.
Right.
And that's why people don't know their purpose or their why. Right. And it's hard to communicate it because there is no vocabulary in that part of our brain. If you read Start With Why by Simon Sinek, there's a very good portion in that book where he breaks this down in the psychology of how the brain works and how the brain makes decisions for us unbeknownst to our conscious mind. Yeah. Right? Most decisions can be unconscious in that nature.
You're going to have a blast with Dr. Eugene Short.
Man.
Those of you that are listening,
I'm so excited.
You guys have maybe seen either myself or my son Joe or Troy Sprang talk about it, and a lot of our clients have signed up with this guy. He's a neuroscience brain hacker. Dr. Eugene Choich, C-H-O-I. Check him out. Look him up. It's potentially life-changing. And it's kind of some of the things that Ian's talking about right now. So, all right, continue.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So the next question in this one-on-one series would be, okay, so let's group everyone in your profession and industry, in your position, into 3 categories.
Okay.
The 80 percentile, the 15 percentile, and the 5 percentile in terms of performance.
Okay.
9 out of 10 people will tell you they are either in the 15 percentile or the top 80 percentile. The people that are full of themselves or have a massive ego will say they're in their 5 percentile. But, I mean, you and I both know to be in the 5 percentile, like, you've got to be that 100-car sales guy. You've got to be a 30, 40, 50-car sales guy. And I know a handful of them, right?
Correct.
Most people get to that 20, 25, and, like, that's it, the one-a-day rule, right?
Yep.
While they're working in the days that they're working. So, obviously the answer, and then you say, well, why? Why are you in the 80 percentile? And you allow the person to discover where they're underperforming. And the psychology behind that is if you tell someone to do something, there's a lot of factors that impede that action being taken. Do they believe you? Do they trust you? Is it something they believe in? Is it something they should take action for because it's uncomfortable?
Yeah.
But when they say it, it's the self-discovery, right? It's, again, going back to they've got to want it more for themselves than you want it for them.
Right.
And that was a huge wake-up call for me when I was mentoring people because it was like we're having good conversations, but like they just don't take action.
Right.
And I realized that it's like, well, I can't make them take action.
Right.
And that's what a lot of dealers try to do is go do this, go do that, da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's not constructive.
No,
it's
not.
demeaning.
Right. Oh, and that's the difference between what managers, in this, the only reason I became a manager is because I sold more cars than anybody else. That's typically how this works out, or you're related.
Yeah, right.
You know, there's very few in between that, and it took me a very long time to understand that you manage process, you inspire, mentor, encourage, hug team members. You don't manage people. Managing people is just what you just said.
People don't want to be managed.
No, of course
nobody
not.
does.
And it's basically impossible anyway, because all you're going to get is a bunch of bullshit. Yeah, boss, no problem. I'm on it.
I'll tell you what you want to hear.
Right.
Yep. But we continue to do the same thing because we're programmed that way.
Right.
So it's
right. And in all fairness, there ain't no classes on this stuff at the dealership. It's like you hit the floor in the morning. It's like, what do you sell cars, make gross? It's like it's pretty narrow-minded. It's not a matter of hey, we need a leadership. We need to send you guys to leadership training, and some do.
Right.
Some do.
They do. They
right.
do.
Right. And they're typically publicly traded, or if they're not, they're family owned and they make $1 bazillion. So,
exactly,
probably a good clue there somewhere that you should follow. So again, continue.
Exactly. So you allow them to self-discover, well, I'm an 80%er, but I'd like to be a 15. And here's the things that I'm not doing. I'm not disciplined enough. I'm not consistent enough. I get lazy at 4 or 5 o'clock if I'm off at 7. And it was really eye-opening because like all of a sudden now you've got a manager saying, hey, you take off at 5 o'clock. You're not consistent. And they're like, yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'll try better, boss. And then they don't do anything. They don't take action. And just recently, over working with a lot of these people over the years, we're starting to see people take the action that's necessary. And it's grown from the bottom up, and it's kind of different, right? Most teams grow from the leadership down, but since we're having these one-on-ones with salespeople and we're talking to the service advisors and the managers, everybody kind of has become on the same page. So it's allowed us to really put some gas behind our cause and what we're really trying to do. So we've seen salespeople go from 10 to 15, from 15 to 20, from 20 to 25, and it's because they're doing things a different way. They think a different way. And let's say you have an underperformer. Like Craig, your goal is 15 this month. We got 1 day left. You're at 12. Most managers, right? I'm gonna start using that word. There's a difference between a manager and a leader. A manager is a boss. A leader is a leader. People do what leaders want because they want to follow the leader, not because they're being told by a boss, right? That's another good sign of leadership is people want to do something for the leader.
No question.
And it's very rare. Like you don't see that oftentimes, right?
You do not.
You hear about it in the news, right? But you don't ever
professional
really get to live it.
Sports,
exactly.
Maybe. Yeah,
it's very up here. So I think our industry and our people are too caught in the weeds, and people are, well, I'm going to keep my feet on the ground. I'm not going to think too high in the clouds. Well, I think we need a little bit more of that now. This has been such a transactional business. What have you done for me today? That manager is going to sit down and say, Craig, you're at 12. You should have been at 15. Why are you underperforming? That's how most managers will ask the question. The leadership team at Mathews Auto, we'll call it Autogrowl Auto, would say,
I like that.
Craig, I noticed that you're down a little bit. Is everything okay at home?
Yeah. There you go.
How are your kids doing?
Right.
How have you been waking up in the morning? Have you been working out?
Right.
You been eating all right?
Yeah.
And I mean, for all you salespeople or whoever's listening, imagine a manager coming up and asking you how you're doing and not why you're underperforming. I know we can all sit here and think like, damn, if somebody actually cared that much about me, I feel like I need to perform or I need to do better, right? So it's this shift of mentality in the way that you're delivering the information to a human brain, not I'm a manager talking to my salesperson. I'm a human being talking to a human brain, right? I know it's very nerdy, but it's the reality of it, and people don't look at it that way, and that's why there's so much challenge.
Yeah, and I think, if I may, that obviously, again, in this scenario that we're painting, we have an empty building, so we have a clean piece of paper, so we can start from scratch. So we would try to identify the people, the potential team members that are most likely to respond in a positive way to that type of environment, right? I mean, that'd be perfect world. We don't
hire the mindset, train the skill set.
Yeah, right, exactly. However, in the real world that you and I both live in, we have to take existing bad habits, problems, situations, and we have to try to correct that, realign it. And that becomes more challenging, but not impossible. And that's where at some point, we're gonna find a certain percentage of people just don't want to play. Right. And it's like, hey,
later.
How much gas are you using to get back and forth to work each week? Oh, well, I found a way to save you $50 a month.
It's a very political way to do it.
Right. Yeah, there's a cardboard box in the parts department. Go grab one. So yeah. So in our scenario, it's a perfect thing. But from this point on, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at when you're hiring and I don't really care. A technician's a little bit different, sort of. But in all forward-facing team members, employees at an automobile dealership, I mean, during that interview, that's something we really need to identify. Is this the kind of person that potentially could take my job, become a leader? Is this the kind of person that I would go to war with, quote unquote? And if it's not, I believe in taking flyers on people, but there's got to be something there that would lead me to believe that person has the potential, the intellectual ability to be able to even comprehend what we're talking about and then put it into action. If not, I'm going to pass. There's no sense going through that brain damage for both of us. It's not fair to the employee. It's certainly not fair to the owner or anyone in between that.
There's places out there, I think, for every
no question
type of salesperson and type of employee, and it doesn't mean that they're all right for you.
It's just not Autogrowl Motors, right? Which is okay.
Right.
That's an okay thing. All right,
since we're talking about recruiting, we have doubled our staff since COVID. So when we bought the company, we actually have twice as many people as we did before COVID. We have not added twice as many clients, and I'm proud to say that. So we've staffed up for growth. It's the first time we've ever been in a position where kind of our handcuffs are off and we have total control of the growth of the
that's going to be one of the very many things that's going to make your company successful. And again, that's to go back to Troy. That's what he does.
Right.
It's like he's got, it's like I think his is a 2-to-1 ratio. I know I have at least 2 people looking at my account, which is, and from a, Troy's been a friend for a long time, and I love him dearly. But now I'm sending him money every month, right? It makes a relationship a little weirder. But it's so comforting to me to know that it's not just one person that every once in a while is going to look at my account. I know I'm taken care of. I know I am. And it's not because of the friendship with Troy. I just know I could be anybody.
Right.
And that's the kind of treatment I'm going to get.
Absolutely.
And that's what your agency does.
Absolutely.
It sounds like and appears like to me. And what if you owned a dealership, it would be run the same way.
Yep, absolutely.
Yes?
Yeah, I'd almost look at the roadmap and say, what are all the inherent problems in the industry right now?
Yeah.
And I would either work to solve or resolve all of them.
Right.
And by doing so, you don't need to get too creative. You don't need to get too,
it doesn't have to be woo-woo
just solve
crazy
the problem.
stuff.
We're in the business of solving problems.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right? And you just take that same philosophy and you begin solving problems. So, the third question to that one-on-one of individuals and how we would bring people on would be, how do you create wow moments? What are you doing as a salesperson to ensure that the customer is being wowed? There has to be a wow moment, right? And I mean, I'm talking, I would pay people for wow moments. We would send people to trips for wow. This is something great that I love that the Weiler organization did, which is kind of where this came from, is years ago. I don't know if they still do it, but they would have this thing called wow moments. And if you performed a wow moment for a customer, an easy scenario would be customer cars break down in the middle of snow on Christmas Eve, and the service manager leaves his house to go pick up the customer, right? We've all heard those kind of stories. Very few and far between, but they're uplifting, and they're like, wow, what a cool guy. What a great business. Damn it, every single one of our employees would have that mindset, and I would only hire to that.
Right.
So you ask, how do you create wow moments? Most people are like, I don't know. So here's a couple actionable insights for you guys. I've got a salesperson for an FCA store. He is so fun, loud, outspoken. I mean, not like the hardest drilling salesperson, but he just gets people to like him, right? He befriends everyone he sells a car with, And he's now an 18, 19, 20 car guy. He's only been in the business for 2 or 3 years. Every month leading the board, 1, 2, 3. Been working with him for 3 or 4 years now. And 3 years ago, my first recommendation to him was go to lunch every day. Don't bring a lunch in. Don't get it delivered. Go out there. And most dealers are like, they don't want their team gone. I couldn't disagree more with that. Your team is doing nothing productive, sitting in a break room for 45 minutes talking about the football game last night.
Ain't nobody in that room buying a car from you, man.
No.
Go to where the customers are.
Exactly. And you think they're sitting there responding to leads or hitting up customers while they're eating lunch? No, they're taking off. So go to lunch.
They're on Tinder.
Yeah, and this is exactly. This is something that I personally did. Go to lunch, sit at lunch, and bring a guy with you, whatever. And after your meal, you look the server in the eye and you say, Craig, I'd like to speak with your manager. And you put your hand, you got to sell it, put a little sizzle to the steak. Craig, I need to speak with your manager or the GM owner, preferably the owner.
Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Mathews, is everything okay? Everything was fine, but I need to speak with your owner. And you just stare at him until they turn around, right? So the manager comes out, the owner comes out, you stand up, you put your hand out, and you say, Craig, I just wanted to thank you today for the service you provided me. Your server crushed it. The food was amazing, and I know how difficult it is to be a manager, owner of a business today. I wanted to personally shake your hand and thank you for today. That's it. And you know what the owner says? Oh, well, thanks. What do you do? What do you here for lunch? More often than not, they'll have the logo, right?
Right.
That is creating a wow moment outside of the dealership. I'll give some actionable insights as to do it into the dealership, but this guy did that.
That's
he
awesome.
left, and I said, always leave a 100% tip. $40 lunch, leave a $40 tip. Yeah, it's going to be expensive. You know what happened? That server's grandmother, son, and daughter all bought a car from that guy within 3 weeks.
Yep.
3 sales
I
on
love
$40.
that. I didn't know you were going that way. I really like that. I really like that a lot.
Rinse and repeat.
Right. Now, what would stop a human being, a salesperson, from doing that, do you think?
Fear, loss, no return, trust. I mean, a lot of different things. People don't have the confidence. They don't think it'll work. They don't understand or comprehend what a wow moment is because they've never had it done to themselves.
Right.
So to step back to Weiler, what they did was if you recognized a wow moment, you would have to submit someone else. You couldn't submit yourself. And what they did was, I think every quarter, they picked the best 3 or whatever in the company, and they would send them to a Ritz-Carlton for the weekend. Because the Ritz-Carlton, you walk in, Mr. Lockard,
right.
da-da-da, here's your room.
How'd you know
We've
my
got
name?
your towel folded the way you want.
That always blows my mind about the Ritz. It's like,
wow
how
moments.
do you know it's me?
Wow moments, right? You would want to feel the way you feel at a Ritz. So most people don't know what a wow moment is. You know, like you don't know what love is, you can't give love. You don't know what a wow moment is, you can't give a wow moment, right? If you've never been through a Chick-fil-A drive-thru, you don't know what great drive-thru service means because Taco Bell and McDonald's and Burger King ain't it.
No.
You know what I mean?
It's like 2 separate businesses.
Yeah, it's
like,
perspective. So another good example of like someone doing it different. They've got people standing outside taking your order with an iPad. It's a drive-thru window. You can't do that. You're not supposed to do that. We're going to do it. Chick-fil-A's not doing this, but that's the way that we feel running our agency, right? Like, you can't do that. Agencies don't manage leads. Agencies don't manage the budget. Agencies don't decide what vendors to use. Agencies don't have access to the CRM. Well, we do. Not everybody's willing to do that, but the ones that are have reaped the benefits of it, right? So creating these wow moments for this individual, he was like, okay, I see it. So you fast forward 3 or 4 years, and now we're trying to get a memorable wow moment with every engagement at the store. So what I recommended him to do was when he sold a car, you know how some people get up and they ring the bell. Oh, we got another sale, Craig Lockard on a purchase of his, I said, okay, you're going to buy some poppers, right? Buy poppers. Poppers, like poppers.
Oh, okay.
Like party
yeah,
poppers.
Okay, gotcha,
but not the little tiny ones like cannon poppers.
Okay.
Right. So I found them on Amazon with him.
Yeah.
So what happens is he sells the customer, and their cubicles are kind of set up like this. So the customer's here. I said, put your phone over here, turn it on, record, grab the poppers, hand them to your customer, stand behind him, and at the top of your lungs shout, we've got Mr. and Mrs. Craig Lockard here on the purchase of their new da-da-da-da-da. And you pop the popper off. The customers, they're popping the popper off. He gets the video. We now have content for social. We can do boomerangs out of it, of like the confetti coming out. We take a picture, send it to the customer. The customer's just You know, they're always kind of scared and happy, but it's a memorable experience. It's a wow moment. So what happened was this salesperson started doing that and ran out of poppers. Guess what he did? He bought 2 boxes of poppers. Now he's doing dash cam testimonial videos, and he's got business owners talking about how they helped him get a new truck. So he had to want it for himself first, but it was the direction we provided him to, and that's kind of another differentiator of Autogrowl is like, we're not cookie cutter. Like, you can't give the popper idea to every salesperson in the country or really anybody in the store because it's got to be super unique. So like, he's doing the poppers because he's fun and energetic and lighthearted. We've got another guy who does Matchbox cars, Hot Wheels, and he allows children to trade in their Hot Wheel for another Hot Wheel. So he's getting kids at 6 involved in the buying process, right?
Ooh, I love that.
Right. So,
well, a 6-year-old could kill a deal.
Right. Exactly. So you take care of someone's kids, and they'll take care of you. I've always been a firm believer. So for any of you salespeople out there, if you have a customer with a kid,
that's freaking awesome.
It's
Have
low
them
cost,
come in
it's
and
easy.
trade their matchbooks.
Yeah. So he'll tell a customer, hey, if you've got kids, bring in their toys, their cars, because I've got a lot here of kid cars that they can trade in. So he'll actually sit there and negotiate with them, and the parents are just watching, grinning from ear to ear, and they think it's so cool. You know, so coming up with these like unique things that people do, right? Some of our clients have performance departments. We work with the #1 performance store in Iowa for Roush, Celine, and Shelby Mustang. Took us 6 months to be #1. I think we're #1 in like a 5-state period, both in part sales and in vehicles, lifted trucks, Mustangs, Roushes, that whole 9. And we started to create certificates. So we built a certificate that actually has like, you know, dealer name, number, X vehicle with the person's name, the GM signs it. It's on a really nice, like thick, kind of weathered. We frame it, we take a picture, and we send it to the customer, right? So now the customer has like a certificate of purchase that they literally will put up in their garage or they'll make a banner out of. So just little things like that. It can come from the salespeople, it can come from the dealership, but creating wow moments is what we would train our sales team to do.
Yeah, they have to be, these things have to be memorable. When I sold cars, and it was initially by accident, but then it became a very big part of my presentation. I've always worn a squared off pocket handkerchief. And so I didn't like the way I had a delivery car came out, it was smudged up a little bit, wasn't perfect. So just pulled the handkerchief out, and I didn't know the people were watching me. I did the outside rearview mirror. I wiped the door handle of the car and then wiped off the rear view mirror. And then I just put the handkerchief down. It just happened. And they said, has no one else ever touched this car besides you? And it was like a horse kicking me in the head. It's like, oh, dude, this is...
Yes.
So I just bought hundreds of white handkerchiefs, and you know, the handkerchief
white glove
guy,
service,
right? Is he here? Here's something that I think is, and I think I have this nailed. If I'm Jonathan Dawson, if I'm giving you credit for this undeserved, oh, so what? But I think Jonathan, I think I saw him do this or heard him talk about it, but. With salespeople, it's the same old thing.
Right.
People taking a picture, taking delivery of their new car. Okay. It's like, okay. It is like, I'm almost blind to it anymore.
It becomes white noise.
It does.
When everybody starts doing it.
Right. So I'm pretty sure, I've seen somebody do it. So I think it was Jonathan, and he was teaching it. If it wasn't, it was somebody else. But whoever it was, I'm going to say it was Jonathan. They actually they sell the car. They take the customer's phone. Okay?
This is Dawson. Yep.
Is it Dawson?
Yep. Yeah. It's take the phone. Hey, this is why you bought from us. This is,
right. And tag yourself.
Like, yes. On their phone. So it's on their page. So their friends see it. Yep.
Because what average 300 friends or what's the number?
It's around there. Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, 300-400 people.
You're talking about huge numbers when you the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon thing gets pretty strong.
It does.
But I don't see why. And so when I saw that, I asked my trainers to do it because we get video reviews from every single dealership that we're in, that we're physically there at. And dealers were a little less forthcoming and want to hand over their phone.
Always.
Right? But a salesperson with a customer, I mean, I think that's huge. Wow.
Yep.
Could they all do it? I don't see why not. I don't think that has to be a one person in a sales staff thing. But service advisors could do the same damn thing.
Yep.
Hey, look, I was at Autogrowl, and man, I had this noise, and no one else could figure it out, and Craig and his team just nailed it, man. And it's like, I'd say, man, if you got something wrong with your car, or even just maintenance, bring it down to Autogrowl. They're awesome.
Yep.
Boom. And then what a strong testimonial that is.
Oh, yeah.
To use, because, I mean, it's like, I'm not sure. I don't, when you go out to eat, restaurant, hotel, blah, 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 blah. Are you a review guy? Do you look? Do you check?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like everybody.
Right. So there ain't no better review. If you and I are buddies and I see something on your feed of saying I bought whatever from whomever, I got to check it out.
People want to buy from friends and people they can trust.
Yeah, no question.
Obviously, if it's a first-hand experience, you're going to trust your review a lot more than just Joe Schmo online,
Exactly.
Yeah.
No brainer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of service, a part of our dealership that I feel like is, I mean, I know it's the difficult part, but we would have a lethal sales to service, service to sales engagement, handoff, communication. I'm grateful enough that at Autogrowl, most of our clients have a really good service to sales communication. There's always things that happen, and some salespeople do the walk after delivery. Hey, here's your advisor. This is what you'll be doing. But that service to sales handoff, somebody in an equitable position, somebody coming up on the end of their lease or the end of a term, most dealerships don't take advantage of that. Correct. And it costs $0. Like some people are going to use an equity mining tool. Yep. Most dealers sign up for an equity mining tool. Yep. They get the leads and nobody takes them, and then they cancel, right? Which is the problem in our industry is like, oh, here's your leads. Right. Here's your leads. Well, we did our part. Well, it's not working. All right, next. Right. Right. And I don't know, Craig, there's been so many times where it's like, we're slow. No one's in the showroom. We don't have any leads. Right. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Right. And they're like, oh, we didn't see that. Or we haven't sold many cars. And I'm like, hey, how come this, and this lead has gone 3 days without a response? Oh. So I can just imagine the turnover in the industry because of oversight and understanding of that.
Well, service, to your point, what you're speaking about is so important, man. It was, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, 8 years ago, there was a conference. It only lasted 2 years. It was so well done. It cost a fortune, and these guys lost a fortune 2 straight years. The people that put it together, I won't name names, but people I know, awesome, very wealthy people. But at any rate, at one of them, I think it was the second one, we're eating lunch. And they'd have a speaker at lunch. That is the worst possible speaking slot there is. I mean, the worst. And Brian Benstock was the speaker. I didn't know who this guy was. I'd seen him a little bit on social, like, okay, they sell a lot of cars somewhere in Queens, and he's a Honda dealer. And he's talking about having a separate sales force in his service department. And he mentioned some numbers. And it was like, and I'm really listening. I'm like, I got a plate of food, and I'm talking about enormous numbers.
I think I know what you're talking about. There were some studies out about it.
So I went, he gets done speaking. I go over and he's sitting there with a plate of food. I said, hey, look, let me introduce. I'm sorry for interrupting your meal. my bad. However, here's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I do. We'll staff your service department. He says, you know, you're the only guy in this entire place. And I mean, there were thousands of people.
Right.
You're the only guy that's come up to me and asked me for my business. Here, call this guy Monday. Right? And we've done business with, I mean, this is 7 or 8 years ago, the largest Honda dealer in the world.
Right.
You know, guys.
He operates from a position of why, not the what.
Oh, no doubt, man.
It's why they look on a pedestal is because they've done things differently, and look where they are.
That's
it's
right.
You know, like the Dan Cummins of the world and the Paragons. I mean, there's reasons why they are, because they do things differently than every other store.
That's right. He David Goggins everything.
Exactly.
I mean, he is,
exactly.
You know, he's the white David Goggins,
right?
Man.
Yes.
The dude's just a beast.
Yep.
All right. So so service. I mean, it's tricky, man.
It is.
Those cats are different.
It is. They're coming in there pissed off because they usually have a problem. So you come in with a problem, and then you try and sell them a car.
No question.
But I think what people underestimate is, I look at pissed off customers as an opportunity to win a customer for life.
Well, and what you just said is absolutely true. They come in there pissed off with a car. You find out they're in equity. Well, would you be interested in trying out your current situation for sim? You know, whatever
keep
kind of word
keep
phrase.
your payment the same or less.
Right.
Yeah.
Whatever, you know, and that's taking that problem, and it's like, well, yeah, I'd like to hear about that.
Yep.
And there, you can. I mean, it's like.
Right.
Everything's brought down to
exactly.
You know,
and we're you know, we manage reviews obviously. So when we respond, you know, it's not the generic response. You know, if there's a negative review, for example, like more than likely we've already looked in the CRM and read the customer profile to see where they're at before we even engage with the client. You know, so normally an owner or GM. You just drop some cheese there.
Yeah.
They will, you know, they'll sit there and maybe just a generic negative, you know, sorry for the inconvenience. Let us know how we can help. You know, you can reach me here at this number. But we'll want to dig into the situation. And what I've found over the last 8 years is that when you provide good service to somebody, they leave happy. And it's kind of that 7-day shelf life is like, they'll forget about it. And it was just a purchase. But if someone has a bad experience and you flip that to a good experience, you correct it, you have the opportunity to lock that customer in for life. Whereas you can give a really good experience and it may not lock them in for life. So it's kind of this weird catch-22.
That's a good point.
So, you know, when Autogrowl, our team, our people, our clients, we look for negatives because that's where the biggest opportunity lies. Because you say, you know, Craig's at Autogrowl Motors and the delivery was, you know, it took 3 hours and you were there for 5 hours and the finance guy forgot to have you sign something. So you had to get some mailed in paperwork. The difference between us responding and saying, hey, we're sorry and fixing the situation versus bringing you into the dealership, giving you a gift, giving you some kind of token of gratitude, providing something for your family, for your kids, and saying, hey, listen, we're human. We made some mistakes. We want you to let you know that this does not reflect our purpose or why we're here. Our goal is to help you have a great experience. We obviously failed. We took accountability, and here's what we're going to do to fix it. But it being in person and engaged or over the phone, that customer more than likely is now going to go, whoa.
Right.
Whoa.
Right.
They blew my doors off.
Right.
Like it was this little thing and they did this and this and this.
Right. And who are they going to tell?
Exactly. Everybody they can, right? Everybody's proud to buy a new car. Where'd you get it from? Who'd you buy it from? How was it? Everybody's very curious, right? Because, you know, it's the second biggest purchase in someone's life. We do it every day. They do it 3 to 5 times in their adult, you know, years if they're keeping a car for 5 years.
And everybody wants to have a guy.
Exactly.
Hey, I got this guy.
What did I say earlier? You want to buy from a friend or someone you trust.
Right.
So you build that trust and you play the infinite game, right? Simon Sinek, the infinite mindset. Not how can I help this person today? How can I help this person over a duration of time? Build a relationship, become a friend, right? You don't have to agree on everything, but you can still be that guy. So, you know, when the kid graduates high school, you know, send them a graduation card. Your customers have a baby and you see it on Facebook. Send them a onesie with your dealership name printed on it. It'll cost you guys $14 on Pinterest. Salespeople, if you have kids, customers with children, if your customer gets a new job, if your customer moves, If your customer gets a divorce, I don't care. Their birthday, anniversary, send them something. I promise you the 10, 20 bucks in the 30 minutes you spend to do that will create lifelong customers. They'll tell their friends and family about it, right? So don't be lazy. Trust in the process and trust in people. Yeah. Take the transactional shit out of it and build a relationship with your customer.
Yeah, no question. Here's, I don't know if you have an answer for this or not. I don't know that anybody has. Well, somebody does, but
somebody's always got an answer, don't they?
It all sounds good for those that have, the listeners out there. Oh, geez, that sounds good. I'd like to work at a dealership like that. I wish my dealership was like that. If I had a dealership, I'd do the same thing. But how do we, as human beings, flawed as we are, how do we get our team to be in that state, that mind state, as much time as possible? I mean, we're there regardless of what kind of schedule you have. I mean, it's tough to make a lot of money working 10 hours a week. The people do it, but you got to work.
There's no 4-hour work week in the automotive business.
No. Well, there is, but
there is.
I don't want to go there. So, how do we inspire those? Because you would agree with this statement. You got a happy team members. I mean, really locked in employees, team members, partners in your business. You almost don't have to worry about the customer. They're going to get taken care of.
Exactly.
Just because the people like working there so much and doing what they're doing.
It's a Tony Robbins thing. Take care of your business will take care of the customer, not the other way around.
How do we do that with them all the time? Now, when you start talking to Dr. Eugene, you're gonna start finding out something that he calls wins. What have you won this week? What are your wins this week? But which is interesting.
My Autogrowl team's freaking out right now because every Friday is our wins call, and we share wins over the past week of what we do across the country, and allow other brand managers to say, "Hey, I need to get more trades. $2,500 over KBB worked for you. $1,000 didn't work for me. I'm going to recommend the client bumps that to 15 or 2K.
Oh, no kidding.
So it's Mondays and Fridays at 9 a.m. Our entire country calls in, and Monday our goals. What am I here to accomplish this week? And we all help each other reach those goals. And Fridays are wins.
Good for you.
And on Fridays you share. I didn't hit this goal. I hit this goal. I didn't hit this goal. I hit this goal. And those are our Monday, Friday calls.
Strong, dude.
Glad you said that.
That is strong. Boy, there ain't not too many companies, vendors doing that.
No.
That's strong.
No, not a lot of companies doing that. Not a lot of people live their life that way.
Right. So what we have to do then, I guess, I'm kind of loading your lips here, but I guess what we have to do if we're running Autogrowl Motors here is our leadership team in each department. They have to be held accountable to run, manage, inspire, lead their department in that way every day, all the time with those team members. I guess their pay gets tied into it somehow through retention of the team member and so forth. Because there's nothing more brutal in a car dealership. I was in retail so long, half my career, 20-some years. That turnover, man, is freaking brutal. It is brutal. And you don't think about it at the time in terms of cost and agony, anxiety, more work of turning that person over and rehiring someone to take their place. It is so much better if you've made the right hire up front to keep that person going. How are we going to do that?
Yep.
I mean, how can we figure that out, Ian? How can we keep that person inspired? money, I guess, is part of it, right? We can bonus them, we can incentive them.
Money works,
but
oftentimes.
But it's not.
There's a deeper root there.
Yeah, there really is. And it really does revolve around the why. If we can establish his or her why in a salesperson, I think we're going to have a better chance of having them raise their demo percentage from 60 to 80%, right? If we know what their why is.
What's fill in, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's the beginning step.
Right.
I believe that.
I mean, do we rah-rah them? Do we educate them? All the above is probably the right answer.
I think the one thing for anybody listening, if you just had to pick one thing, one very simple thing, it's that you need to be interested in the personal well-being and personal goals of the employee. Because what happens if I sit down and say, Craig, how many cars you want to sell this month? 20? Great. How do we get there? You need this many ups. You need to make this many calls. You need to do this many emails. It's got to be followed up for this long. Those are all the whats. Those are the whats. Those things get talked about all the time.
Yep.
Craig, you want to sell 20 cars this month? Okay. You want to make 10 grand? Why? What are you going to do with that 10 grand?
Yeah.
Well, I'm saving up to buy a house. I'm paying down my college debt. I'm having a baby. I want to buy a new car. Right? So now all of a sudden you've changed the narrative. You went from talking about how do I get you 20 cars to how do I help you pay off your student debt.
Right.
Now
those are two different things entirely.
Couldn't be more different.
Right.
And the receiver of that says, holy shit, this guy cares about my personal goals. Like, I've only ever been driven to reach my career goals or my job goals.
Right.
I've never had a manager or a leader or a boss sit down and say, well, why do you need to make that money? So all of a sudden, the goal setting turns from the what to the why. Right. Set your goals from the why.
Right.
Okay, so Craig, you need to make 10 grand this month. You've got how much in student debt? $40,000. And when do you want that paid off by? This date. All right, Craig, I'm putting this date in my calendar. You said by December 31st? Okay, you and I are going to hit this goal together. Fair enough? Let's rock. And then the conversation starts.
Yeah, well, it's a different, when you approach it that way, it's like, it's like, this is paper, right? It's just merely paper.
Mm-hmm.
But that college debt is anxiety, agony, pain.
Inability to progress your life, to make decisions, to make purchases, all of it, right?
Right.
A lot of different things.
Right.
And that's the case with anybody in that position is like, no one was born and we're like, I'm going to be a car salesman. I was put on this earth to sell cars. I was put on this earth to make money. Right. What about all the people before we had cars? Right. You know what I mean? So but people wake up with a certain purpose, and if you help them fulfill that purpose or that passion, and you look on the flip side, you think, well, if you have a bunch of great leaders and a bunch of high performers, they're going to leave you. You're right. So what is it?
That will happen.
Right. And what is it? What will it be my duty as the owner of the business is to go buy more stores to keep everyone in house. That's where it comes back on accountability of the ownership. Right? Because, you think, well, if you build so many great leaders and you said leaders create great leaders, well, all of a sudden you've got 15, 20 car guys. They're going to get offers for more pay and less hours from other places. You're damn right they are. That's a great problem to have. I would rather have that problem than the problem of, oh my God, I'm losing a guy because I don't care enough about him because he's an underperformer or he's just unhappy. Like, that hurts my soul, right? Because you can buy a car from anywhere, from anybody, for any price. As a salesperson, you can sell a car at anywhere in the country, at any dealership, right?
Yep.
Why did they choose to work for you?
Right.
Because you care. And that would be the flip side is like, yeah, I know the inherent challenges and problems that this structure of Autogrowl Auto would present, but I would much rather have the problem of having to buy another store because my GSM's ready for a GM job to keep him, because that in turn motivates me. And now all of a sudden you've got this infinity loop of everyone helping each other because everyone's got the same goals, and that's just growth.
Right.
More, better.
Yeah, I've talked to dealers, and it's like, now we're in good shape with people right now. The problem is I got a couple guys that got manageritis, and they're whoa, man, let's look at this idea. Let's look at extending the hours at the dealership. Oh, Craig, they're all bitching about the hours they're working now. No. We're going to actually cut people's hours. We're going to have another team. We're going to give that person that's thinking about leaving an opportunity to become a leader, manager, whatever, and decrease the hours. But make hours more available to the public in your area by doing that, which is, just is obviously short of buying another store, but it's on the way.
Exactly.
And, there are some forward-thinking dealers who go, okay, geez, that makes sense.
Right.
Let's do that.
Right.
Oh, wow. Leg cramp. Oh, I hate those.
Not drinking enough water?
Man,
Need a banana, some potassium.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, wow, that would hurt.
Get the medic in here. We got a medic?
Out of nowhere. Ouch.
That's a first. Podcast cramp.
Yeah. You're okay time-wise, right? What time's your flight?
9 p.m.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Speaking of flights, everybody might think this is funny. I got yelled at by the Philly cheesesteak guy yesterday. I went to Joe's, I think on the east side.
Yeah.
I guess Pat and Gino's are the places you don't go to if you're local.
Yeah.
So I went to Joe's, and I walk in, and of course I opened my mouth, and he knew immediately that I wasn't from here. He's like, "What can I do you for?" And I'm like, "Well, I'll take the pepper steak." And he's like, "What kind of cheese you want?" I'm like, "I don't know, all of it." And he goes, "Whoa, no, no, man, come on. I mean, I can let you do that, but you really shouldn't. So you either want Whiz and Prove or Whiz and American." I'm like, "I guess the latter." And he's like, I said Prove. He's like, "Okay." And he just gave it to me, and I walked out, and I'm like, damn, I felt like I just walked into the soup Nazi or something. I ordered wrong, and he knew I wasn't from the area.
Yeah.
I might have to do that again.
Philadelphia is an interesting spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some, I tell you what, some great places to eat in this city, man.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, it really is. It's
bet.
hard. You gotta seek out a bad meal.
Right.
It would be really tough. There's a lot of great restaurants. It's actually a pretty cool area, politics aside, but it's It's actually a pretty decent area. They take their cheesesteaks real serious.
I thought I was going to get punched in the mouth for ordering too much cheese. He's like, "Hey, you can do that, but I don't recommend it." I'm like, "All right, you know what's best. I'll listen to you."
We talked on the phone briefly, I don't know, a week or two ago or whatever it was, and we were talking about hotel experiences and traveling on the road. I mean, isn't that something, man? Unless you've done that for a living, and especially as a startup or a business owner, it sounds goofy, but it's like instead of spending $160 on a hotel, you spend $80. Right? And it's like, and you're just torturing yourself or whatever the numbers are, depending on where you're at in the country. But it's like, I mean, I've done that so much. I still, in the last couple of years, I've stopped or curtailed it. But it was like, you know what? I mean, coach is okay. I don't have to fly first class. And then, but I mean, I did that for years and stayed in some. Oh, man. It's some absolute
crusty places.
Prison cells, man. Like just nasty.
Yep.
Nasty.
They're out there for sure.
They're, and it's weird. I don't know if you've experienced this, the morning breakfast. Some chains do pretty good with it.
With the bag in the tray and the food that's all kind of one color and it's all one flavor. Yeah, I try to stay away from that.
Yeah. Some of that stuff's really nasty, man.
Yes.
My dog likes it when she travels with me, but and I probably shouldn't give it to her. It's so bad, some of that stuff. But man, those of you that don't travel for a living, count your blessings.
Yes. Everybody's like, "Oh, I get to see you travel so much. That's so cool." And I'm like, "You have no idea."
Yeah.
Like, it's okay it's fun traveling leisurely with my wife, going to vacation, no stress. But like when you're on a schedule, and especially now with the way the flights are all jacked up, and I'm usually taking the last flight out. So there has been so many times where like the craziest shit has happened just to like get to a meeting.
Yeah.
And
gotta have a plan B.
Yeah. And plan C. We had, do you remember last year when, was this last year? I lose track of time. American Airlines system went out. You remember that? All the flights got canceled. It was like 1,300 flights one night.
No,
it was like last March or April.
Is that right?
Yeah. So the client we were going to see, we usually flew out the morning of, and he's like, you guys should really start coming in the night before just in case anything happens. I'm like, oh no, we'll be fine. Don't worry about it. There's, whatever. So it's like 10:30, and I'm trying to check in for my flight, and it's me, Nick, and one of our senior brand managers who was in Indy at the time. And we're like, hey, you guys having problems with the app? And we're like, yeah, I can't check in. My tickets won't come up. So we get online, and it's like American Airlines computer system crash. The one time that it has ever crashed was literally the night before we were supposed to fly out for like a 3-day production, right?
Oh, man.
Yeah, like, $25,000 production over a 3-day period, and we didn't have a flight, and this is, a 1,000-mile trip. And I call Nick. He's like, what do we do? I'm like, I think you know what we got to do. He's like, all right, I'll be ready. So I get in my car, drive up to Dayton, pick him up, drive to Indy, pick her up, and then drive to Iowa. Didn't sleep all night, drove straight through, right into meetings at 8 o'clock, meetings from like 8 to 6, dinner with the client, 2-hour drive to the next client the next morning. So, we're talking damn near 48 hours, if not more, no sleep. Grinding through, just getting it done. And at the end of the day,
that's a suck drive.
Oh man, it is. It's boring. The best thing is the world's largest truck stop. That's like the only thing that is worth seeing on the way.
There is some cool stuff when the way our trainers do it and the way I did it when I started the company. You're gone a week, and I've seen the world's largest frying pan, which is in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Okay,
pretty awesome. It's really freaking big,
right? It's like the world's largest baskets in like near Columbus, isn't it? Like Grove City.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a building, but it literally looks like a picnic basket.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
really?
It's huge.
And my daughter my one daughter lives in Columbus. I should check that out. I didn't know that. And I've seen what else? Hubcap. There's a few that claim they're the largest hubcap place in the country, but with all the designs and everything. I got to see on one of my trips. I got to see what's his name? Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling River, whatever, that one house in it's somewhere in Pennsylvania. Yeah. So every once in a while there's some cool shit out there,
always.
But for mostly travel, is
not cool.
No. And so you got to make that decision of, especially if you're an owner, say, okay, do I want a nice night's sleep? Do I want a nice pillow? Do I want a real bed, or do I want to save $40 and sleep in?
Exactly.
It's
that or we fly through Chicago a lot, and especially in the winter, flying through O'Hare. If anybody's ever been through O'Hare at the winter, if you're taking a flight past like 6 or 7 p.m., like there's about a 60% chance you're going to make it, and a 40% chance something's going to get changed. It's the way it works.
Airport is brutal.
And multiple times we've gotten there, and before we became smart, would schedule meetings the day after a production trip. So there's been many times where we got to Chicago, flights canceled till the next morning. We've rented a car and drove 5 hours to Ohio. We just did it from Detroit last week. Our flight in Detroit got canceled, moved to 6 a.m.
Now there's a toilet airport.
And then we had to drive from Detroit. So that it happens all the time. So anybody out there that thinks traveling for work is fabulous and leisurely, it is anything but. It is certainly not the most exciting thing.
Hold on, my partner here, one of my partners, Craig and myself stopped at, did we really, Ernie? The world's largest truck stop on our epic drive to Salt Lake City many moons ago. Did we really, dude? Huh.
Yeah, it's the world's largest truck stop.
You can't miss it. There's a lot of people watching this thing.
Semis inside, and like any LED thing, and of course they've got the awesome shirts with like the wolf on the front and the eagle. Your Native American shirts. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah.
Craig's looking at me like, oh, cool.
So, in terms of marketing, let's talk about marketing. Autogrowl Motors.
Absolutely.
Where do we start? Now, I know there's a lot of variables. I mean, obviously geography is important, and just knowing Troy, being in the car business. I mean, have a pretty good handle on how to do this stuff, but because there is still a place for traditional, depending on where you're at.
Absolutely.
As long as you can own it, I mean, dominate it, or whatever, however you want to say it.
Yep.
But what in just a normal location, normal OEM product, how are we going to get our message out to the most amount of people about our dealership is to come and buy and then service their automobiles and then tell a friend about our store?
Absolutely.
How are we going to do that? What's your thoughts on that? And you're now, because now you're the dealer, you're calling all the shots.
All the things I recommend to all of our clients that they don't do everything, right? They do a lot of it, but obviously certainly not everything.
Right. Well, there's dollar constraints,
of course,
and we have to. I mean, the agency is something I heard a long time ago, man, and I think this is so true. A customer is just an exchange of dollars for goods or services, right? But a client is a person under your protection,
right?
A client is a person under your protection. So I think, as the owner of a dealership, we have to look at at the people that are coming in and giving us money as clients. We have to protect those people. I think as a vendor to a dealer, especially in your world, you really got to protect that dealer from him or herself at a lot of times, because they might, they've taken their dealership over from maybe a family member or somebody in their 20 groups killing it with plug into whatever,
right?
And it ain't gonna work in your area,
right?
It's not gonna,
right?
And to talk them out of that, hey, dude, I know you want to spend $20,000 a month on cable, but you're gonna get lost. It ain't gonna work in your, right?
Absolutely.
So, if you would speak to that a little bit, how are we gonna? And you get to play both ends of this thing as the marketing company, as the agency, and as the dealer. How would you work through that maze? Because it is a son of a bitch, man. And you can make big mistakes, dollar wise, if you're picking the wrong thing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, well, let's try this, and this for the next 6 months, and pretty soon, the dealer's out $750,000 and hadn't moved the needle.
Happens all too often,
right?
It does.
How would you? Let's talk about that a little.
Yeah. So again, we would adopt the infinite mindset, right? If we do something, we're not just seeing if it works for a couple months. We're doing it because we believe it's the right decision to make. We believe that it is the employee-centric, customer-centric, profitability-centric decision. Our acquisition costs in the early stages would be more expensive than latter as retention and loyalty builds within, so we would obviously front end heavy prepare for, much higher, probably double the acquisition cost of our leads than we would, let's say 24 or 36 months down the road, because the business would be dependent on retaining customers. The business would be dependent on loyalty. And what I've seen happen is that most dealers advertise, just like you said, let's get 100 more leads. Let's get 200 more leads. And it's my payment will do it. My inventory will do it. Those are all the whats.
Yes. Right.
There's a space for retail message. You've got to have your payment out there. You've got to have what you're it's because people are programmed, so you got to give them a little bit of the programming.
Yes.
But I want to crush the programming in the face and whoa, hold on, this is so different. So again, to your point, owning a space. So if we're going to be in a space, especially the digital real estate space, I want to own it. I want to be the loudest. I want to be the clearest communicated. I want to be the most recognizable. I want to be the most memorable.
Right. Creative's really important.
I
don't think digital, I don't know. Is this you being in the space? I am, from what I've seen, creative and the content, but the creative really separates, in my opinion, digital marketing companies from one another.
It does.
Some of it's just so cookie cutter and
Yep.
Okay, and they get all the metrics and everything, all the data. It's all data driven, this and that, and another thing. But if the creative sucks,
yep,
it ain't happening.
And most people go to the digital approach with, they look at it almost in these channels when really it should be looked at as a funnel. And to break it down on an easy level, you know, we kind of break ours down into three levels of a funnel. And I know you can build 10 levels to a funnel or whatever, but to make it the easiest and what we found to be the most cost effective is top of the funnel is brand awareness. It is just recognizing that you exist in the first place, whether you're interested in that brand or not. The second stage is discovery and differentiation. And the third stage is commitment. So, you know, a lot of agencies and companies want to get super fancy with their funnels and here's all these touch points. And if someone's here, then you got to hit them here. And like, there's definitely a space for that. But most dealers don't have the patience to build a process that really works in that type of layered funnel like an e-commerce company would, right? Or a company selling to mass consumers would, because you have larger numbers. At a dealer or a point, you only have so many numbers, so you can only try so much and you can only build so many funnels. So the way that we would approach it is we would start with the top level funnel brand awareness with tier 1 quality content. And by that, if you look at any of our clients, when we shoot productions, our productions have a story. Our productions aren't $4.99 a month. It's not how much inventory you have. It's literally a story as if, you know, the OEM was producing a commercial. So that's how we would first stand out. So for example, our very first client, and I'll give you guys a plug here, Deary of Ames in Iowa, in Ames, Iowa, right outside of Iowa State University. Really good relationship with them, been with them for a while. And the wife of the owner, Michelle Chasey, actually pitched us a production. So she says, well, Madeline, daughter's getting married. How cool would it be to have a little girl in a Ram and she gets out or whatever? We show the transition of like, you know, live your life in a Ram and our daughter gets out. So what we did was, and I'll post this in one of these groups so you guys can see the example and talk about after this, but it was Mark Chasey, the owner. We casted a little girl of one of the customers in a little ball gown. And it's very light, airy music and sun flares. And he holds her hand, puts her in the Ram. They drive up to the church. He opens the door and his daughter gets out in her wedding gown.
Awesome.
And he walks her into the church and it's create memories in your Ram, Deary of Ames.
Nice.
That's the way we produce commercials. So that's what I'm talking about. A top tier 1 quality content.
Gotcha. It's
something to get the attention. I don't care if they like trucks, if they're a FCA, you know, a customer, they're a Ford customer, it doesn't matter. Anyone with a kid or a family can identify with their daughter being married. So when we produce content to identify. That's it. Very simple. Not to help someone make a decision, right? That's for the lower funnel. That's the commitment stage. So brand awareness is just, we are going to identify with you. We're not here to sell cars. A lot of our clients will say, we're not in the car business, we're in the family business, or we're in the people business. And that's how I know we're working with the right people, because they all believe that, right? And not every dealer thinks that way. We're here to sell cars. You know? Most dealers aren't like, well, we're here to serve people. Which is why Autogrowl is going to get, you know, maybe in our heyday, 10 years from now, we may have like 2% of the market, or less. You know, so
2%, you're going to have to buy a really big boat.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, what's that? Couple dealers.
That's a bunch.
So, but we have some very big goals, and hopefully through this process, other dealers wake up. Right, like we're going at this with. This is a kind of a new concept. It's the hard way. You can't do it that way. And like now we've been a company long enough where like we've proven that it works, and there's going to be other people there that wake up to that. And I think my generation of owners is really where it's going to come out, you know, because the older generation's programmed a certain way. They're probably not going to change because, you know, your generation, they're not used to change. It is what it is.
Correct.
You didn't have to change. You don't need to change. You've been doing fine. There's no reason to change.
The boat's big enough.
Right. Exactly. So, you know, it would all be based around that top tier level we would identify. And then in the next layer would be our differentiators, our experience, our people, our purpose, our passion, our cause. You know, we wouldn't talk much about price. We wouldn't talk much about payments because all that shit doesn't matter. It's the same as everybody else. I would go against the grain at every opportunity possible to stand out. And that tonality that we would have with customers would be very customer centric. And there's a lot of dealers and businesses out there that talk about it, but our reviews, our people, the daily content, I mean, everything would prove that we're here acting and living what we would do.
That's a tough pitch to dealers, unless you know going in that they're more likely thinking kind of in that direction. Because the old car guy, they're going to look at you like you got four heads.
Exactly.
Hey, kid.
Exactly.
Nice.
Exactly.
Good luck with that. And then, you know, you're out.
Yep.
So that's a tough pitch. So you got to have the right person. But again, we're playing for small volume numbers anyway with big results.
Right.
And so what difference does it make? One suggestion before I forget, you'd be in the way that you present yourself and 20 groups is something that you should really look into. Have one of your dealers hook you up.
Absolutely.
You would do real well at 20 groups, and you get paid, and they're always at awesome places. So,
did you hear that, dealers out there?
Yeah,
get us into the 20 group. I have sat in
really
one
should.
Volkswagen 20 group, and actually I had like a Facebook guy in there. And we kind of chit chatted, but never had the opportunity to really like speak to the dealers at a group. So
dealers got to come up with an idea,
right?
And they would. Turn you over to the group moderator.
You can also host those things, right? You can be like a sponsor or the host of the dinner and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you can, but you don't have to.
Not worth it.
Yeah, I don't think so. Because you get in there, and if they like you and in the subject matter, which is good, which yours is, you'll look over to them and say, my hour's up. What do you want? No. Keep going.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then you got the cocktail party afterwards, which they pay for, and it's like, it's all good. So
there you go.
Yeah, but that I would talk to your dealers about that. Say, hey, look, I'm available for 20 group, and because they have to come up with something. So they're looking for ideas. That would work. That would play well for you, I would think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think it's so interesting that there are so many ways to get people in the door. That's exactly what I wanted to talk to you about. How would you go, do you think? And I don't know if you've given this any thought at all. I don't know why you would, but whatever. BDC, no BDC. Appointment setters that just flip them to salespeople, or so-called cradle-to-grave BDC. I mean, obviously, someone with the ability to communicate with a lead, right? Based on however you got them in there for the dealer is vital. But now it's your money. How would you do it? Any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, because we're actually in the midst of this now. I think in the industry, and even as a company, we just recently launched a VBDC program. So where dealers don't have the personnel to manage the leads, we're actually now managing the leads for them.
Really?
Yes.
Good for you.
So this was kind of incepted at the beginning of COVID, when we had to make that transition. So we started to train the BDC and the team and give them word tracks and review, all of their metrics: appointment rate, contact rate, set rate, show rate, sold. And again, to the point of talking about earlier about data, oftentimes, it looks like the BDC is underperforming because the close percentage is bad, when in actuality, they're kicking ass on appointment and appointment show, but maybe there's a salesperson that is causing the close rate to go down, right? So we would staff our store probably 75-25 BDC to salespeople. I'd have 3 BDC to every 1 salesperson. They would be answering the leads. They'd be building a relationship. They would be a dedicated appointment coordinator or a specialist or support. Obviously, we could A/B test, the names, whatever. It doesn't really matter. But at the end of the day, it would be very clear communication. You're going to come in. You're going to speak with this person. He'll be waiting for you at the front door. We're going to have the vehicle pulled up. It's going to be clean, sanitized, gassed, on, ready to drive. You're going to come in and ask for the manager. The manager is going to introduce himself and hand you off to a delivery specialist or a product specialist. So I would hire super strong closers on the sales floor, and I would hire really good communicators and really clear communicators in the BDC.
Right.
And the BDC would be paid based on appointments, appointment show, and sold. So they'd get a kicker for the closing percent. I despise when dealerships don't pay the BDC for closing, because there's no vested interest in them teeing it up properly then.
Correct.
If they only care about getting the customer in, we've seen how many issues that creates by, I'm here, the BDC told me this, or the internet person told me this. So again,
just to get
identifying the issues in the industry and negating them. So I'm not coming up with anything new or groundbreaking. Right. I'm just looking at the challenges I would solve that I would not allow to be pertinent in my business.
Yeah.
And that's it. I would do it that way.
Yeah.
The managers would have close interaction. The managers would confirm appointments. The managers would engage with unfollowed up customers. They would engage with people that haven't responded in 3 to 5 days. It wouldn't be this, this guy up at the desk or the manager, let me go talk to my manager. Like if the customer wants to talk to the manager, damn it, the manager would get off his ass and go talk to the customer.
Right.
That's it. It's that simple.
Yeah,
it's not that we would make them, it's because they would want to.
Right.
And that comes back to the whole culture and all of that. But that's how I'd break it out. It'd be three BDC to every one salesperson, depending on lead volume, and we'd go from there.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that even a little bit. It's so important. It was important.
It's backwards
2 years
now.
ago.
It's backwards.
Now it's even.
It's all backwards. Why have 12 salespeople and 2 BDC people when you're getting 500-600 leads a month? Like it literally doesn't make sense when your salespeople sit on their ass half a day, play bubble bash, or aren't out doing the wow moments or creating retention.
Right. Well, and you're going to have way more salespeople because that lead, whatever's getting carried forward, it's not going to be done properly by most. I sold a crap load of cars when I sold cars. I mean, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There ain't no way, and we had weekly meetings where follow-up meetings with the manager, and it was all a total pack of, there were no CRMs back then.
Right.
It was just total pack of lies. Oh yeah, I called that guy 3 days ago. It's
That's why you get into the CRM and you see the call time was 4 seconds. I did my task, right?
Right.
You didn't even let it. They just hung up on you. Mm-hmm. Sure, guys.
Right.
Sure,
so,
guys.
I mean, that lead is not going to get followed up to fruition, whether they're out of the market, bought somewhere else. Buy or die. They died. Heaven forbid. Or it's just not going to in a traditional salesperson.
Yeah.
I don't see that there's any way
it's
they
a different
can.
mindset. They don't have
Right.
the
and they don't have the time either.
No.
I mean, if they're with 2.5 customers face to face a day, or in some form or fashion of face to face, they don't have time to make the 50, 60, 70 calls following up from 3 months ago.
Right.
They just don't.
Exactly. And where a lot of teams fail in not following up with that unsold showroom visit is when you bring in a different voice. So let's say, for example, we've got 10 people in the BDC and we've got 3 to 4 salespeople just basically doing deliveries, test drives, whatever. The individuals in the BDC wouldn't be paid off individual performance. The BDC as a team would be paid on performance.
Well, say that again. I'm sorry, I wasn't.
So instead of saying, hey, here's your 10 BDC people and here's how you all individually make money, it would be you're all on the same. Obviously, they're going to have their individual KPIs and bonuses. But at the end of the day, the goal would be the entire BDC.
Oh, okay.
So what that does is it obviously creates a team effort, but it makes the processes easier. And I'll give you an example. You come in to me, you set an appointment with Sherry, our BDC person. She says, go talk to Ian Mathews, the manager. You come in and ask for Ian Mathews. I come out and greet you. I hand you off to Joe, your salesperson. You do a test drive and you leave. Who's going to call you? Not Joe, not Ian, not Sherry, but Bob in the BDC. And he's going to call you and say, hey, I'm a customer experience specialist. I'm here to do a quick survey. You were just in our store. You didn't buy. Just wanted to find out why, because we're always trying to improve our processes because our customers are most important. At the end of the day, whether you buy from us or another place, doesn't matter. We just want you to be happy. What do you have to share? And I've been in stores that do something like that. They haven't had a full process, and the information you find out is just incredible having a third party. And what would happen is that person would be responsible for getting that person back in through that survey call, and it would work because it's a different voice and it's not the same person trying to get the sale. And also why the BDC would be paid totally on performance, because that BDC person's not going to try to get the other person's person in if they're only getting paid on their own leads.
Correct, yes.
So
interesting.
Again, completely different way of thinking about it, but I've seen bits and pieces of it. Nobody's really put it all together in the full package, and I see it working. I know that it would.
Be nice for those people to have windows in their office too, wouldn't it?
Yeah, instead of being in a dungeon all day. Yep. Getting out, looking at the product, taking a drive in them. I mean, there would be a lot more into it, and they wouldn't just be answering leads. They would have 30 minutes a day of personal growth training. They'd still have their one-on-ones. They'd be going out and getting in cars once a day so they can talk educated and eloquent about the vehicles and about the differentiations of them.
In 1983, I was running a what became a very large, believe it or not, Cadillac, Oldsmobile, GMC, Renault dealership.
Mm-hmm. Renault. I think that was before I was born.
Yeah. Yeah. There's very few of those alive anymore. It's a long story. The shortened version of the story is I talked the dealer into allowing me to build. They weren't called BDCs back then. What did I call it? Did I call it a phone room? I don't know, whatever. But I mean,
fancy.
No one, I don't think anyone had this in 82 or 83. And it was what do we have? 10, 12 people in there at a time on the phones.
Wow.
And they get done with the construction. There's no windows. There were windows in that room, but when they made it into a room, they sheetrocked over the windows. I said, well, you guys got to, well, I got to check with the owner first. I said, oh, okay, you go check with the owner, but start cutting it because I'm not going to let him say no. And
I know the direction this is going.
He's yelling. He says, God damn, why didn't you say that up front? I said, they got to have freaking windows, dude. They're going to have windows. It's like, what, you want me to pay for it? You don't have enough money to pay for the windows? Mm-hmm. It was like this, and we ended up with windows, of course, but it was like, come on, dealers. Mm-hmm. Make that environment decent for these people.
Yeah.
If you're going to put them in a dungeon and you're going to pay them minimum wage, treat them like crap, allow the desk and sales department treat them like crap, you have a failed BDC just sitting there waiting to happen. You got to do something. You got to be different. Mm-hmm. And kind of the theme of this whole thing has been, from what I've picked up and having a conversation with you, it's almost everything that we're doing do the opposite of in a lot of cases, right? Mm-hmm. Am I hearing you right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which isn't it's the very unpopular opinion. It's, well, if this has worked for this long, why would we change it?
Yeah.
I think this year should be the example of why you can't be stuck in your ways. Like,
you can't.
Finally, God forbid, it's horrible that this is all going on, but at the end of the day, what a perfect example for why if you're stuck in your ways, you will die off.
Yeah.
Period. Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, adapt or die. It's really blowing my mind. We had a brief conversation outside before the podcast this morning started. The number of dealers that are having record-setting months, quarters, years it's mind-blowing. Mind-blowing because they adapted, which is it's remarkable.
Yep.
The car business is
a beautiful thing.
Amazing industry, man. How we can adapt to things and just say, okay, well, let's see. Ain't no hell for a hill climber. Let's see. All right, nobody can go out. Nobody can do anything. Nobody can go anywhere. No one's working. That's all right. Let's break some records.
Exactly.
It's like, what?
Exactly. And, I think the telling thing here is that we realize that, even in our own clientele, that we're probably overspending in a lot of areas. We're spending dollars where, we're getting leads, but are they resulting in sales? And is it just an attribution? And the problem in this industry inherently, unfortunately, is the fact that there's so much attribution that it makes it very. And if anyone sits there and tell you, well, down to the direct lead source, like, you might get a conversion from a lead source, but what about the other 4 times they clicked on something and the other 3 times they were on your website, or the lost lead they sent in last year, on a source you're not even paying anymore that originally engaged. So, like, unlike e-commerce, or like if I'm selling you a shirt that says #BeatTheSunUp and I target that out to people that get up early, that work out, that, are go-getters, I'm going to be able to build something that directly can attribute where my sales came from, how many abandoned carts I have. It's much different. We're in automotive. There's a million different touch points. So you've got to use that gut feeling along with your data and analytics to make those decisions for you. And we'll be the first ones to admit we discovered that a lot of things we didn't need and a lot of things we had to go back to. We got away from, or we got 2 to 3 months of not having to spend much money and then slowly start to trickle it back in. But at the end of the day, why a dealership like Autogrowl Auto would flourish, would be one of those dealers that sets stupid records at a time like this, is because we would be built for retention and loyalty. That's it. And retention is the most profitable focus in any business ever. I don't care what you say. If you think you can make more money by not retaining your customers or your staff, you're crazy, especially in the auto world where a salesperson that's selling 20 to 30 cars a month is better than 3 salespeople selling 10 a month.
That's interesting. What, and I'll talk bad about them so you don't have to, but Cars.com, TrueCar, all the lead providers. Where are you at when you're sitting down with a dealer and that's obviously part of your audit or whatever you call it, but prior to doing business with a dealer.
We call it an analysis instead of an audit. Yeah.
Right. That's good. I like that too. Yeah. I actually like that better than audit.
Analysis is more technical, I think. Audit sounds negative.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to find things wrong and I'm going to show you how you're doing everything wrong.
Right.
Which nobody wants to hear everything they're doing wrong.
And I do not want to be audited.
Right. I don't think anybody does.
So where are you at with recommending it? So you got a dealer spending whatever, an obscene amount of money on third-party leads, in your opinion, based on the view that you have of their business at that point in time, or they're not spending enough, or in looking at their CRM and looking at, they've been there for 60 years, they have strong data, they have strong fixed operations. In your opinion, they have enough in-house. How does that conversation go? Where do you go typically with a deal like that? Or how do you get to a final decision?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, your market is going to be a huge differentiator because third parties don't like us, obviously. When they hear that they got to call Autogrowl, they're like, oh, shit, here we go.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So they don't get to talk to our dealers.
That's right.
They talk to us, which frustrates them, and they've obviously tried to go around us, and that usually doesn't work. But I think there's a time and place for them. I'm not like totally like go against the third parties. If you've got enough inventory, if you have the budget, and if your team is closing at a high enough rate, right, then it makes sense. But only if you can be one of the top views in that source. So like, let's say you've got 30 new cars. Like a lot of dealers are really low on inventory right now, right? New and used. It's starting to pick back up. Auctions have started up again. But all things considered, a lot of dealers are in a very poor position because every dealer I talk to is like, man, I wish I would have bought all those cars I could have in March. I wish I would have, right? And not many people did. I think we got like 1 or 2 people that actually went out, bought like 100 cars, and they're destroying everything right now. So that's like the one differentiator. If you've only got 30 cars and you're spending $3,000 in a market where you're going to show up, once every few searches, or you're at the bottom of a page, or you can't afford the alpha, it doesn't make sense. Why would you spend that money to get this much when you can spend the money you need and get a lot of attention and get a lot of engagement, right? So it comes down to an inventory and owning the space. I've been with dealers that had great inventory, and we were spending $12,000 a month out of an $80,000 budget on AutoTrader. We were the alpha in our market. We were top tier. We did have the little interstitials. And then I've also been with stores where we're spending $3,000 in a market where we got a budget of $30,000, and we're not getting anything out of it because there's just not enough inventory, and honestly, not merchandised well enough to get seen, right? So like, let's take Car Gurus, for example. Car Gurus prices out good, fair, great value. They got the little indicator. Well, oftentimes Car Gurus won't pull the proper trim level or features from your feed, like Viato, HomeNet, whatever. So the used car manager has to go in and manually add Bluetooth, sunroof. You know, like I had a dealer that had a Challenger that was sitting in poor value. They went in, it was an SRT. They hadn't added an SRT. They didn't do premium tires, premium wheels. It went from poor to great, sold in 2 days. Right. $4,000 copy.
Isn't that interesting?
You know, so it's a loaded question. I wish I could give you a direct answer as anything with the automotive industry. Yeah. But it comes down to, can you own the space? Right. Is it viable enough with the amount of inventory you have? Right. Are you closing well enough? And are you merchandising enough? Right. I think those are the 4 areas.
Does the OEM, what OEM you're dealing with, enter into the answer as well or no? Or doesn't it matter much?
Yes.
I mean, if obviously Mercedes is going to be different.
Right. If I got a Subaru store in the middle of nowhere.
Right. Well, there's a good example.
Right. You know, no. But if I'm a Toyota store in an A or B market, absolutely. It would make sense. Now, I don't think it makes sense to get on all the third parties. I think it makes sense to kind of tier yourself out because you've got different consumers in different areas. So you see kind of like Edmunds is really kind of like fallen off the map, but you see Cars.com and AutoTrader and now maybe even TrueCar. You know, and maybe even Car Gurus kind of on that top tier. And then, you know, you've got these other third parties that are kind of layering. You got Carfax used now. You know, you've got a lot of different industries getting into the game that I think it makes sense if you're one of those few in there. You know, like, what was the company that just kind of shit the bed? Fair? Used car leasing? Yeah. They just laid off a bunch of people and, you know, they were going. So, like, you know, there's little things like that, right, where there's not going to be a lot of competition. So my recommendation for dealers is to get into a space where you can own it, just like you said. If you can be 70 to 80% of the attention in a space, go for it. Yeah, right. Now, back to your point, make sure the creative is good. Make sure the merchandising is good. Make sure your inventory is good because you could go spend that $10,000 on AutoTrader and have you know twice as many cars as everybody. But if your used car manager, new car manager isn't merchandising right, or your BDC is not closing right, then it is a waste of money. Yeah, you know. So it's really subjective, I think, to the way that you're managing the third party as to the recommendations that need to be made.
Mr. Nicholas Earl Schmidt.
That's right.
He just posted. What the heck did he post? Or some sort of video. Oh, Deary of Ames. Oh,
he posted
commercial,
it for us?
The one you're talking about.
Oh,
this is cute. Sorry, people. We should be able to.
It's only a 30-second. It's okay, guys.
And I can't. Freaking YouTube, man. They don't let you put anything. Oh, that is awesome. That's an awe moment, right?
Yep. Yeah. So we've done a lot of really cool, fun stuff. Like that owner played minor league baseball. So we've got a spot of him with his son out at the baseball field in a Cherokee playing baseball and going to the high school game and, you know, have fun with our employees or our clients' families and get them engaged. Something that not a lot of dealers do because they have the turnover issue is put their staff in commercials because they're like, well, they won't be here and I want it to have a shelf life.
Doesn't that suck,
man? It does. But, you know, what they don't realize is like dealers, for you listening out there, if you are doing in-house productions or you're doing productions that actually include staff and it's not just the owner or the GM out in front of the store screaming at the camera, and I'm sorry, but it is what it is, engaging your staff in these videos, you are vastly underestimating the type of buy-in you get from them.
That's a fact.
If I'm a salesperson and my face is on your commercial and I'm on TV and I'm on your Facebook video that's got 10,000 views, I am walking around with my chest puffed out thinking like, yo, I'm the guy. Like I'm in the spot, you know? And then when a customer comes in and they're like, Craig, you are in the commercial.
There you go.
They get goosebumps and they're like, you're right. And that doesn't happen normally in the industry. Like a customer comes in and it's a transaction. Right. So all of a sudden you start putting these familiar faces in these spots. And I know it goes against what a lot of you are going to think because, oh, they might not be around forever. That happens. People are going to leave. But you're vastly underestimating the amount of buy-in. And in just that, you will be motivating and empowering your team to take action because now you're all in this together.
Right.
you're fighting for the same cause. It's not just, hey, here's the dealership with a message, and I'm just a salesperson, a pawn in the game. I am the game.
Right. Yeah.
So it's that psychology flip of doing things differently than everyone's else doing.
That's right.
And the results show.
Yeah. And it could, in fact, help reduce that turnover issue, too.
It does.
If I'm a local star at ABC Motors, I'm more likely to stick around there a little bit too.
And do things for your staff, all of our clients, we tell the staff that we're on retainer, but like we make content for salespeople. Like if they want a custom cover banner for Facebook, we'll make it. If they want to do a flyer, we'll make it. If they want to go out to their local hospital and say, hey, I've got a local employee purchase program, $500 off any car, $500 more for your trade, we will make the flyer for them. So like we take the agency, like,
dude, I'm not sure I've heard
you haven't.
Companies doing stuff
you
like
haven't.
that. That's
agency.
Good.
Our clients don't refer to us as vendors. They call us their marketing partner. So when they speak to third party, they say, well, AutoMax sounds really great, guys, but Autogrowl, our marketing partner, they help us out with that. So we're not a vendor.
Yeah.
We kind of joke about the vendors. Yeah. So that's where we're much different, is that dealers invest a lot of money with us. So the added value is just like through the roof. And that's why it's really hard to sell what we do, because I can sit here and tell you all the cool things we'll do for you, and it's kind of just a pitch, which is why I'm not really interested in hard selling a dealer, because I want a dealer with that mindset already. Right. And when we connect,
that'll bite you in the ass.
Exactly. And it has, and I'll give this one example, and this kind of really shows who we are as a company. At the time, this is the beginning of 2018, middle of 2018, we were working with a store on the west suburbs of Chicago, and at the time, they were our biggest client. I think we were on retainer for like $28,000 a month, to do full service, everything front and back, and 2.5 months into the relationship, a negative review came through, and this is when I'm personally still managing reviews for clients. Right. I think we had like 4 people in the company, and I'm sitting there, and it's a paragraph, just a lady going off on the service department, which happens. So I call the GM, and I'm like, hey, we had this customer, negative review came through, and here's everything that she said. I looked in the CRM, she's not in there, so I need to get information from you because I don't have access to the DMS. I can't see what's going on in service and rentals or whatever. And he's like, oh yeah. I remember this lady. F her. Just don't say anything. And I felt like this pit of my stomach drop out. And I'm like, damn, that's it. That's it. That was the red flag. And 3 days later, we were no longer doing business with them. It was about 20% of our business at that point. Yeah. So at that point, we had to let go of a client, right, and part ways. That was our biggest client. I had just hired people to handle the account, and we parted ways because I knew that it was a very short-term thing, and they literally lied to us and said, hey, we care about people, da-da-da-da-da. And that one response, I don't care how busy the GM was, it doesn't matter. If they were full of it, or if they weren't full of it, they would have said, yeah, you're right, I need to address this. The lady's kind of crazy, but we want people to see how we respond and handle the situation. So there's been times where, we'll review a contract. There was some oversight. The client signed it, and I've cut checks for advertising because it's our responsibility, right, to review contracts from vendors and for vendors. Oh. So there's been a lot of stuff. Like we had just started the company, and we were buying for Pandora. And Pandora has a $5,000 minimum, and I convinced them to do $2,500 because we just didn't have a big budget. We were very local targeted in 12 zip codes with a high frequency during drive times. We also had display and audio, so it was kind of a nice mix. And all at the same time, the client had their accounting company change, the personnel changed, Pandora's rep changed, and the contracts changed. So unfortunately, the contracts came over at $5,000 a month. Oh. I kind of quickly glanced at them, passed them to the client. He signed them. Ooh. They didn't get the bills because accounting had changed. So 4 months go by. Oh. And we get a check from Pandora for $20,000, or a bill for $20,000. Right. It should have been $10,000. Right. Guess who cut that check? Autogrowl. We cut a check for $10,000. And ouch. It was huge to us at that point. Sure. And the client in here, you know who you are. This is probably the first time we've ever talked about this, but that just goes to show it doesn't matter how tough it is, how much it's going to cost, we will do the right thing. Yeah. And I don't ever tell people this because I'm more about action than speaking. And I use these as examples to prove who we are as a company. Because I could sit here and tell you we'll do all the right things, but most companies won't when push comes to shove. Like my checkbook has proven that we're here to do the right things, which is why we retain our clients and why we don't lose internal people. Like the people that work with Autogrowl, that want to work with Autogrowl, they work with us and they see the vision of this company and they want to be directors and regional vice presidents one day. And, like we just hired 3 people. Guess how many interviews we went through? 200 to find 3 people.
Yep. That's the right way to do it.
Find the right mindset and train to the skill set. Because we can train anybody how to build an email and build Facebook ads. And like we've got technicians and specialists for all that. But what I can't train is the mindset, right? And having that mindset coming in has solved so many problems for us. And, that's the way we operate and the way we'll operate, continue moving forward.
I don't know if you've noticed this. I don't know. Our business, probably, 70% of it's done, we get paid on via credit card. Mm-hmm. With the other 30% is checks. Mm-hmm. And I probably should have kept track, but I think we've probably been paid 3 times, 3 checks, where a dealer has paid us in error more than once since the pandemic, because they're operating with a lot of them are working from home. Those the accounts payable people and so forth. It's like, dude, you send me that check one more time, because one of our things on our mission statement is don't touch dishonest dollars. That's one of our core competencies. Right. It's like, dude, you send me that check one more time.
It's going in the bank.
It's going in the bank.
I'll look at it as a gift and not an oversight next time.
Yeah. We're going to credit your account for future business, but you got to do the right thing. As a business owner, you have to do the right thing. Yep. And it's like, and we'll put a little note, hey, listen, you already paid on this, this invoice double paid. And, I've had a dealer here, 3 or 4 weeks ago go like, dude, 2 things. First of all, thanks for sending the check back. Very few vendors, I feel, would do that, unfortunately. Right. Said, but it also it brought up a bigger issue. We have a really good person doing it, but we have to take a look at our process, because I shudder to think how many other people we've paid twice that didn't send the money back. So I said, you probably should check into that. Absolutely. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I made a post on LinkedIn on it, and it was like 10,000 views. Like, wow. Hey, check.
Here it is.
Check it out, because big opportunity for error there. So, but now, as a business owner in a car business, I'd like to think, Ian, that if we as owners, if we do the right thing by the dealers, I think good things happen, man.
You do. Karma's real.
It truly is, right? Because we can do a blind eye, or we can skid by, cut a corner. Who's going to know? But man, that shit just has a way of coming back to get you.
It becomes those type of decisions, I believe, are the DNA of a company. It's like, what is the DNA of a company? And it's the decisions they make. It's not what they do. It's not the people they hire. It's the decisions they make. More importantly, the decisions they make when no one's watching, when they know they can get away with something.
Right, exactly right. That's a great point.
And becomes your DNA, and then all of a sudden, over time, you realize, like, oh, now it's bled into everything else. So it's got to start from the leadership to make those right decisions, because it does become the DNA of an organization.
Right, and it's just like, it's no different than a salesperson working at a dealership doing something crooked, and the customer may never, ever say anything to anybody, but they're going to tell a whole bunch of their friends, and it's going to end up costing. It's the same in our world.
Exactly. It's like,
man, customers must love us. They don't complain about nothing. Now they're talking shit behind your back to 40 other dealers.
Exactly.
At those 20 group meetings I was talking about. It's like, don't ever use whoever. You got to do the right thing.
Absolutely.
Man. Speaking of doing the right thing, I think we should wrap this up. It's been 3 hours.
Is it really? Wow. Time flies when you're having fun.
3 hours. I think I said, didn't I say to you on the phone, when was the last time you had a 2 or 3 hour conversation with a person?
Yep.
But we don't do that as people, right?
No.
I mean, you might with your wife. You probably don't even with your wife.
I get about 2 hours a day with my wife because, I mean, I'm up at 4:30. She's a nurse, so she's got to be at the hospital at 7, works until 5 or 6, goes and works out afterwards. I start cooking dinner, so we get like 7 to 9, 8 to 10 during the week. That's about it.
Yeah.
We talk about each other's day, what went well, what went wrong. I mean, it's, very communication, but you're absolutely right. This is the longest single point conversation I've had with someone without pausing in quite a while.
Right.
Which is refreshing. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah. It was great.
It's good.
Yeah. It's really, you're a talented young guy, man.
Thank you. It's kind of you to say.
You're going to, and after you talk to Dr. Eugene, that should be even more interesting.
I'm excited.
For sure.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, one last time, how do people get a hold of you? Name of the company
Absolutely.
and so forth.
Autogrowl, autogrowl.com, Autogrowl on Facebook, Autogrowl on Instagram, Ian C Mathews, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Ian C Mathews with 1 T, one of a kind, Ian C Mathews, and follow #BeatTheSunUp. That's kind of like our vision and our my personal, I don't know what you want to call it. It's kind of similar to Glenn Lundy's Rise and Grind.
Right.
But in terms of my philosophy, I believe that the first challenge every day, the first win you could possibly ever have is getting up out of bed. And I feel that you should be grateful for the opportunity to do so. There's a lot of people that can't get out of bed. There's a lot of people that can't do the things they want to do. And a lot of people ask me, like, why, Ian? Why? You seem like you never slow down. You never stop. Like, don't you get burnt out? Even Dr. Choi asked me, don't you get burnt out? And I say no, because action is my gasoline. I've seen what it looks like to hurt and to be in pain and misery and to not be able. People ask me why. My answer is because I'm willing and I'm able. I feel guilty when I take it easy. I feel guilty when I slow down because I know that there's other people on this earth that would they would give anything to have what you and I have and to have the opportunity we have. So that's the vision, man. Beat the sun up every day. And I've had a lot of people. I've personally mentored 39 people in the last 18 months, all between the ages of like 20 and 30. And most of which have begun beating the sun up, and they've said it's been life-changing. Like, my mind's clear. I can take action. I can get my day coordinated. So that's what we're about. So.
And you have a new YouTube channel, too.
I just started at Ian C Mathews.
Right.
I put on there kind of like a day in the life.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people either don't believe or have hard to comprehend that I can work 16, 18 hours a day and just continue doing it every day. So I wanted to start to visualize the process for people so they could actually see it in real life. And hopefully that empowers some people to do the same.
Yeah. So give these guys a call, subscribe, reach out to them, and give them a shot. They're the real deal. So, Mr. Adam, thank you for today. Appreciate you as always.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you both, gentlemen.
All right. And why don't you get us out of here with some music from our pal in Sweden. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
I will never turn